Tashan Reed is another new reporter covering the team at the Washington Post. He will join us at 11 a.m. He recently covered the Raiders for The Athletic. Also at 12 today, Frank Schwab will jump on with us to talk NFL. Preston Smith is back in a Washington uniform, signed today as Jonathan Jones went on the injured reserve. The toll from Thursday night's game was significant. Eckler, Wise, and now Jonathan Jones done. Preston Smith back. He was not signed in the offseason after being released by the Steelers very early in 2025. If you recall, the Packers traded Preston Smith to the Steelers last year at the trade deadline. Smith was not a good fit for the 4-3 base defense in Green Bay that Hafley, the new defensive coordinator last year, brought in. And he went to Pittsburgh. Well, now he's in Washington, where their base defense is primarily a 4-3. We'll see how it works out. But Preston Smith back in town. Remember, this is the team that drafted Preston Smith all the way back in 2015 in the second round. This from Richie to open up the show. Kevin, the push-pull rule got changed in 2005. Not just a few years ago. I understand that pushing runners was against the rules for most of our viewing days, but you exaggerated the newness of the rule change, just an FYI. Yeah, Richie, thank you for that. You are correct. And I did go look it up after you sent it to me. I didn't really intend to exaggerate it. I just didn't know the exact answer. And I thought it was in the ballpark when I said it was, 7 or 8 years ago rather than being 20 years ago. Bottom line, though, is when I hear people say, well, what they're doing, it's not against the rules. Well, they're right. But it was against the rules for 85 years of NFL football. My point being, it's not like it's crazy to make pushing or pulling a ball carrier against the rules. It was the rule for most of the NFL's existence. And I think there's a really good chance that it becomes a rule again next year. By the way, the Chiefs and the Eagles on Sunday. How about this as a television audience? Fox put this out yesterday. It averaged 33.8 million viewers. It was Fox's best ever regular season Sunday telecast. It was the most watched NFL Week 2 telecast on record and the most watched September-October game ever. Yeah, so the tush push is not making people turn away. And I said that. I said that I don't think the television ratings are going to be any less. But if we saw this every single week in Philadelphia's big highlighted games, you will get the angst, you will get the frustration, and the long-term effect of that, who knows? I do think they're going to do something about it. I really do. This from Eric. Eric writes, Kevin, help me if I've misunderstood you. You made the point that Jaden needs to take less hits, but claim Cliff doesn't need to change the offense. Simultaneously, you've said Jaden, being the competitor he is unlikely to protect himself, especially when the game is on the line. So what's the answer? I don't understand why we couldn't see Jaden line up under center a bit more and get our one-cut wonder rookie running back going. Even better, where's our 225-pound sledgehammer? Anyone see C-Rod lately? We're the caveman. Where's the caveman Rick Doc Walker when you need him? I can't argue that Cliff's offense was dynamic with Jaden last year, but what good is this offense if the franchise quarterback is at risk, beat up, and injured? Sincerely, 12-man personnel guy. Thanks for that, Eric. So I want to just make. I think it's an observation. It's not answering Eric's email. I'll get to that in a moment. I want to emphasize something about last Thursday night that I've emphasized all week long, going back to Friday. But I think that it has lent a level of urgency to this conversation about Jaden that is much higher than if he just got hurt in a game in which he played well and the offense played well and they won by 2 touchdowns. Because what happened last Thursday night is not going to happen a lot to this team. I mean, I don't believe in this blueprint. They've figured him out. He's C.J. Stroud. They've got an answer. The Packers had an answer. But I think we are going to find out that the Packers might be different. The Packers might be the Eagles of last year defensively. By the way, the Eagles might be the Eagles defensively from last year. So far, early in this season, we've seen some outstanding defenses in the first 2 weeks. Often people will say, well, offense is ahead of defense because defense, they haven't tackled, they haven't hit anybody, early in the season. We've seen some really good defense. Now, week 2 was the highest scoring week 2 in many, many years. Understood. Week 1, much different than that. But we've seen some really good defensive teams. The Packers for sure. The Eagles for sure. Tampa, I think, is really good defensively. San Francisco looks to be really good defensively. The Rams appear to be very good defensively. By the way, I just mentioned teams in the NFC. I haven't gotten to the AFC yet, where the Chargers appear to be very good defensively. Washington is going there in a few weeks. And then, by the way, who's been really good on defense after being one of the worst defenses in the league last year? Cincinnati's been really good defensively. Cleveland is really good defensively. By the way, I didn't add Atlanta in the NFC. Very good defensive team. But can they do what Green Bay did? Philly might be able to do it. They might. But I think that the point about the urgency about this conversation, Jaden being hurt, and talking about, well, you can't put him at risk. He's got to minimize the times he's been hit, which I totally agree with, and we talked about that yesterday. I think the sense of this conversation being super urgent is also partly because of what it looked like last Thursday night. They got beat by a team that just has freaks. Freaks. So does Philadelphia. We got to play them twice. And they're playing the Chargers in a few weeks. So there will be other really good defensive teams on the schedule, but Green Bay and Philly are different. And I don't know that any sort of, solution has been created to slow down Jaden Daniels and Washington's offense. Keeping him off the field will, if he's hurt, no doubt. Now, let me get back to the point of Eric's email. So, yes, I want him to protect himself more. And no, I don't want the offense to change. We went through some of these yesterday, but I'll just go through the list. For me, I think Paulie brought up a great point. First of all, minimizing how many times Jaden gets hit can start with, if you're in a game that is essentially over, whether you're winning by a lot or losing by a lot. And the context is, man, it's been a physical game. Jaden's taken kind of a beating. We really, in the scenario in which you're getting beat badly, like Thursday night, you can't protect him. Let's protect him. Let's not have him continue to drop back and run and take hits in the pocket and outside of the pocket. That game was 27-10. It felt like it was 42-10. It really did. And the idea that Washington was going to come back and win that game 1 out of 100 times, maybe. Okay, maybe 1 out of 50 times. It'll happen. But the larger big picture was, why subject your quarterback to another quarter or another 2 to 3 drives, another, 12, 13, 14 plays of hits or potential hits? So that's number one. They could minimize the number of times he gets hit by not having him in position to get hit in games that are over at the end. And by the way, nobody thinks about winning the game down to more than 2 scores with 10 minutes to go in the game more than I do. I never want them to give it up. In a 45-28 game, let's say they were down 45-28 in that game, and both teams can't stop each other, and Jaden's having a big night, then he's staying in there. Let's go get another one, make it 45-35, and see what happens. But that was not the context of Thursday night. He was taking a beating, probably the worst of his career. and they couldn't do anything about it with protection, and they didn't choose to do anything about it with play calling. So that's number one. You could minimize the number of hits Jayden takes by pulling him from that kind of a game, or proceeding more conservatively, running the ball, handing it off, throwing quick outs, quick bubble screens, and if you got to punt, you got to punt. Number two is certainly a running game and more balance would be protective of Jayden. Now, not every Sunday is going to call for that kind of game plan. Every Sunday is a different, opponent and a different way to move the football. I hate the idea of, oh, you got to be balanced. No, you got to move the football. You got to stay on the field. You got to minimize the number of times you punt, and you got to try to score and keep the football. All right. So if that's throwing it a lot more than running it, that's fine. If it's running it a lot more than throwing it, that's fine. If it's balance, that's fine. We've seen in NFL football over especially the last 10 years, there are lots of ways to score, move the football, and possess the football. But, in certain games, like on Thursday night, the play calling could have been a bit more protective. Having 48 pass plays called and only 12 run plays called to the running backs put Jayden at more risk. Now, calling plays and suggesting how the professionals call plays is really kind of silly from this seat or from your seat, but play calling can be protective, of a quarterback who you're having a difficult time protecting. Personnel can be protective of the quarterback. They went out, they spent in a trade, Laramie Tunsil. That was an investment in the protection of their young franchise quarterback. They drafted in the first round a tackle that was an investment, future investment in the protection of the quarterback. But right now, Josh Connerly is not protecting the quarterback. Let's see if they make a change to protect their quarterback more. So personnel, scheme, play calling, that's all, pulling him from games or getting more conservative in games that are over and not exposing him, subjecting him to the hits that he had on Thursday night. I understand that people say it's football. They're out there playing football. Yeah, but we know how he plays football. And so there is a level of, we don't want you to get hit a bunch over the final 7 minutes of this game where it's 27-10 and we can't protect you and we're probably not going to win this game. I mean, last year's opener against Tampa Bay was egregious. And Kingsbury fessed up to it. It was his first game as a coordinator. He was the play caller for Arizona as a head coach. And at 37-13 in the fourth quarter, they're running zone reads, by the way, on a condensed field down by the goal line, and Jayden's taking a pounding. That was silly. You can't do that stuff. So that's where the team, the coaching staff, can protect the quarterback. But the rest of it is really on him. Scrambles, 1st and 10, first quarter, scoreless game. Instead of getting 9, how about we get 6 and get out of bounds? Quarterback draw, 1st and 10, early second quarter, 7-7 game. Let's get 8 and slide rather than, taking on 2 tacklers and trying to get a first down. We'll take 2nd and 2. That's fine. Now, 4th and 5, late fourth quarter, down by 6. He's got to go for it. Same thing. Whether it is scrambling, quarterback draws, zone reads, doesn't matter. Now, the back to the coaching staff, I do think, and I've said this going back to the Tampa opener last year, I just think that there's certain plays where, they'd like him to be Josh Allen running quarterback counter, quarterback power, or Lamar Jackson or Cam Newton. That's not who he really is from a body type standpoint. Why subject him to being tackled? He's going to get tackled in the field of play more times than not on those called plays. How about minimizing those? So there are ways to keep the offense what it is, but to protect him if you're the coaching staff, minimize the number of times he gets hit, and for Jayden to do the same. And he's got to do the same. Now, as far as under center And, where's the sledgehammer? And where's the one-cut rookie running back wonder? Yeah, I'm with you, but not every game plan do they feel like they can line them up under center and run, zone runs and boots and play action. It's not really the offense. It's not the Shanahan offense. He goes under center very seldomly. But yeah, I think he could be great in that offense, but that's not the offense. I'm not barking about the offense at all. I just think that as the most hit quarterback, the quarterback that has had more contact in 2024 and more contact in the first 2 weeks of this season, there's got to be, an answer here somewhere to minimize it somewhat. And I think that there are some answers there. Anyway, yeah, and I do think we are hyper sensitive to this right now because of the beating they took Thursday night. And that was a beating by a team that beat down Detroit and Washington with a freakish defense. You'll hear Steve Suter. I'll have that, I think, on tomorrow's show, break down the defensive side of the ball. Yes, a lot of you really enjoyed Steve. So did I. I think he was really, really good. So I asked this question yesterday, but we didn't open it up for calls. But here we are 2 weeks into the season. 2 weeks ago, we were making predictions for the NFL season. What was Washington's record going to be? What were they going to do in the postseason? I had a pretty optimistic view of the season, which is unusual, although it's 2 years in a row. I thought that they could win 11 games, and I thought that they would be a team that could and would, because I predicted it, represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. Max had the same. Max had them winning the Super Bowl. I had them losing the Super Bowl to Kansas City. The Chiefs are 0-2. Doesn't mean they're dead yet, but man, they look a little bit limited offensively without receivers. Xavier Worthy down, Rashee Rice suspended. They're in a bit of trouble offensively. They play the Giants Sunday night. That game could be an interesting game. Like, the Giants are good on defense. I don't know what we saw Sunday. This unbelievable performance by Russell Wilson. It was an unbelievable performance. It was out of nowhere. But what if Kansas City went to MetLife Sunday night and lost to the Giants? They are 6-point favorites in the game. They are also a heavy early public betting favorite in that game. So 2 weeks ago, there we were, making all of these predictions. So what I want to know is where you were 2 weeks ago and where you are today. It's not just 1-1. It was, not the most impressive win in the opener against the Giants, 21-6. We were ginned up about the defense, or many of you were, after one game. Offensively, they were a few plays away from it looking a lot different. Like if he connects with Terry on that deep ball, there were a lot of, penalties and a lot of drops and a lot of sloppiness. But Jaden was still pretty good in the game. And, it was one game, but then came last Thursday night, 4 days and a night later, and they got absolutely beat into submission. The final score, we'll look back years on it and probably forget how one-sided this game was, but it was alarming how far away, at least last Thursday night, our team was from the Green Bay Packers. And there was already one juggernaut in the NFC, and now there may be two, and I would suggest to you that the Rams, as long as Matt Stafford stays healthy, might be three. It's very possible that they're another one. And it's early. I mean, Detroit bounced back. They're still, certainly capable offensively. The 49ers look like the real deal on defense. They've just got to stay healthy. The NFC we knew was loaded going into this year. It might be even deeper than we thought because Tampa, Max loved him, the Bucs from the beginning. Tampa could be really good. Atlanta could be majorly improved. And I don't know what to make of, say, Arizona at this point. I would tell you, though, that the Packers and the Eagles look like heavyweights. The Rams might be there as well in the NFC. In the AFC, I think you'd point to Buffalo and you'd point to still Baltimore because it was 41-40 in that game. The Ravens have scored 40 plus in both of their games, 40 in the loss to Buffalo, 41 in the win over Cleveland. But the NFC is deeper and has some really good teams. So the question is for you to answer is, tell me where you were 2 weeks ago, and have you changed? Have you come off that prediction one way or the other? Maybe you made a prediction that said you thought this is exactly what you were going to see, and that's fine too. 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. I was at 11-6 and NFC champions this year. Have I changed where I think they are after 2 games? I'll have my answer. Max will have his answer because he was very optimistic about this season as well. Phone lines are open, 301-230-0980. Where were you 2 weeks ago? And after 2 games, where are you now in terms of what kind of season Washington is going to have? Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980, the team980.com. Remember, you can watch us on our Team 980 YouTube channel. Hit the subscribe button and hit the like button when you get there. So where were you 2 weeks ago with your preseason Washington prediction, and where are you now after 2 games? The NFL, man, it's recency bias. It's week to week. Things change dramatically. So I was at 11-6 and had them representing the NFC in the Super Bowl. I did. Um, I'm not coming off of that. It's too early to come off of that. There's just so much more football to be played. And early season NFL football is so often misleading. Week 1, definitely. But really, the first few weeks of the NFL season is misleading. There didn't seem to be a lot misleading about the Packers on Thursday night, especially their defense. That is for sure. And the Eagles are sitting there as the defending champs 2-0. I'm not sure really through 2 weeks there's been a more impressive team in the league than the Green Bay Packers. In fact, I did see with some of the NFL power rankings that came out yesterday, they were number one. I think ESPN had them as the number one team in the league. No, they didn't. Somebody else did. Maybe it was Yahoo. They had Buffalo was 1, Philly 2, Green Bay was 3. Baltimore was 4, Detroit was 5. Detroit way up after last week. Washington, by the way, fell to 9th from 6th. I did see Washington at 11th and 12th in various power rankings. This is the nature of everybody. Analysts, they get paid to analyze NFL football. Fans, sports talk hosts. I mean, it's a roller coaster, man. 1 week you're convinced one team is one thing, and the next week you're like, wait a minute, that didn't look like what it looked like last week. The Giants, a perfect example from week 1 to week 2. Look, they are right now suffering more injuries. They've had some devastating injuries, losing Eckler, Wise, Jones, losing Bates and Noah Brown here for a bit, more likely than not Sunday at the very least. Last year, they got pretty fortunate with injuries. Injuries are the thing you can't predict heading into a season, but end up being a huge, huge influencer on an NFL team's season. So obviously, if they end up having, a high number of man games lost due to injury, it's going to be devastating because they don't have the depth that other teams have. Not everybody has a lot of depth, but Washington, as we know, because of poor drafting, certainly before this regime, they don't have a lot of depth. They don't have a lot of answers for losing Noah Brown. They don't have a lot of answers for losing Austin Eckler or Dietrich Wise or, a John Bates for any amount of time. They certainly don't have an answer for losing Jaden Daniels. Hopefully it is 1 game max. And by the way, still no real read on that. Dan Quinn is going to speak today at 12:30 before they practice. We'll carry that live for you. I think, I certainly am more influenced by right now what I think, hunch 2 weeks in, so you don't know for sure, is just an absolute loaded NFC. Green Bay, Philly, Tampa, San Francisco, Detroit. I think Atlanta is better than people think. I still think that Jaden Daniels, is the best quarterback in the NFC. So if they can just get to the postseason, I'd give Washington a chance against anybody. We saw it last year. It's not like their roster was much better last year. Some might say now they're missing De'Ami Brown. They're missing, Zacchaeus, maybe, certainly through 2 games. But I still would give them a chance if they can get there. So I'm sticking with my prediction right now. But I am teetering on this prediction. And it has something to do with the injuries and just the idea that, this could be one of those years injury-wise. But a lot more to do with, I knew the Eagles were going to be a great team. But now that you've got potentially 2 great teams in the NFC, if not 3, and I think the Rams are close. The key with them is health, clearly. And look, they beat the Texans and the Titans to open up the season. They play at Philly this Sunday, 1 o'clock. Same window. That game should be in the late window on Fox, man. I don't know what they're doing. They should have flipped that. They could have flipped it. I forget when they can start with the flexing. Maybe it's too early for that. Did you know, by the way, in the last 11 games, the Rams are 9-0, except for the 2 losses to Philadelphia, regular season last year, and then, of course, in the divisional round of the postseason. I'm teetering. But I'm going to stick with 11-6, and I'm going to stick with they're going to do really well in the postseason. But it could be difficult given the NFC landscape. Max, you were at 11-6. You also had them in the Super Bowl.
I did.
You had them winning Super Bowl 60. I had them losing the Super Bowl. Have these two games changed your mind?
Much like you, I'm not coming off the prediction yet because, as you said, we're 2 weeks in. We're 2 weeks into this season. A lot can change. I remember 2 years ago when the Washington Commanders went 2-0, and I was thinking that Sam Howell could be the guy, and I believe I said it to my current boss, Chris Kynard, and egg on my face after that year. That was great. But I say all that to say a lot can change 2 weeks in. Now, I definitely I had this Packers game chalked up as a loss going into the season, so it wasn't really surprising. But it was such a dominant win for the Packers, and I mean, it felt like every other play, a guy was getting hurt, getting carted off the field, limping off. Trainers had to come out. It was just much like you said, this could be one of those years. So like I said, I'm not coming off the prediction yet. I still think that 11-6 is feasible. Now that depends on Jaden's status for this week and how this week goes. But I mean, we'll talk to me next week, and I might have a completely different.
Yeah, this Sunday's a big game.
Yeah,
this Sunday it's not must win. It's not code red. It's not any of those things. But with 2 road games, and by the way, 4 road games in their next 5 after Sunday. This is a critical game to get here early in the season because losing to the Raiders, and this game is served up schedule-wise. Raiders on a short week, Washington on the longest rest other than having a bye. They've got this mini bye playing a team coming off Monday night. The only way you can have a bigger net rest advantage is if you're coming off a bye week and they're coming off a Monday night game. So it's a huge advantage, not to mention West Coast team coming east for an early kick. And the Raiders got beat up a little bit on Monday Night Football by the Chargers. The Chargers are nasty. So this really is a served-up game. Of course, if Jaden doesn't play in it, you're talking about a game that'll be close to pick 'em. The line right now is sitting at 3, down from 6.5. But that's because the status of Jaden is in doubt. If he is ruled out, that line will come down even more, and the game will be, basically an odds toss-up or close to it. Washington might still be a 1.5 point favorite, something like that. So you fall to 1-2 with 4 of the next 5 on the road against the Falcons, Chargers, then home against the Bears on Monday night, and then at Dallas and at Kansas City. That is not you play them one at a time. Cliche, coach. But yeah, Sunday's big. All right, 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. Phone lines are open. What was your prediction 2 weeks ago, all right, for the season? And have the 2 games that have been played, 1-1, sitting here with some injuries, understanding that the landscape in the NFC is legit, have you changed your mind? Let's start with Greg in Gaithersburg. Greg, thanks for holding. Go ahead.
Hey, good morning, Kevin. Hey, I haven't changed at all. I think, and I don't know what Green Bay did during the preseason as far as how much they played starters or not. And I think that this may be a reflection on everybody, the coaches as well as the players, and not having a solid enough preseason to know where our weaknesses were. It doesn't bother me. I'm not worried. I think our depth is okay. I don't think it's great, but then again, I don't think any team's depth is great in the league. So, I obviously I'd rather not have any of these guys hurt, but it's part of the game, and you got to prepare for it. And I think we'll be okay. I'm gonna stick with 11-6, just like you.
Thanks for the call. I'm looking up to see what Green Bay did in the preseason. I know this is a big thing with a lot of you. They played their starters for a series in the first game, but it looks like after the first game, they didn't play anybody. Interesting. Washington played their starters for a series in the second game of the preseason. So yeah, they played in the first preseason game. Jordan Love and some of the receivers did. They lost, by the way, 30-10 to the Jets, and then they didn't play again in the last two preseason games. So not a lot of starter action for Matt LaFleur's Packer team in the preseason either. Let's go to Joe in Springfield. Joe, what did you have 2 weeks ago for the season, and have you changed your mind?
Hey, what's up, Kevin? So I had 10-7 or 11-6. I was going back and forth. I'm going to say 11-6, and I'm going to stick with that. However, Kevin, honestly, considering how the NFC was last year when the playoffs started, 11-6 or 10-7 could knock you out of the playoffs, because look how many teams went 10-7 last year and missed the playoffs.
Well, yeah, well, Seattle went 10-7, missed. Green Bay was the 7 seed at 11-6 last year. Yeah, it was
exactly.
It was a loaded conference last year too.
Yeah. So I will say that, but I mean, it depends on how Jaden does. I mean, and honestly, real quick, I just got to say this: if Jaden is not good to go Sunday, don't play him. And the good thing, Kevin, about this is that we have a current ownership who is not interfering in this. We haven't heard anything. They're letting the GM and head coach make the decision, and the doctors as well. Thank goodness the previous ownership is not around anymore. This will be a whole new, different direction of deja vu all over again. But I'm going to say 11-6. I'll stick with it. Let's see what happens, because this schedule, Kevin, like you said, is going to be tough. If we lose to Vegas on Sunday, this could be, I'm not saying panic this yet, but it could be interesting from here on out. So take care, Kevin.
Look, if they lose to the Raiders on Sunday, there's going to be full-fledged panic. There's going to be screaming and yelling and running through the streets, because at 1-2, then going to Atlanta and to the Chargers, I think people will say the season's over. Now, if Jaden doesn't play and they lose, it may have a different context and a different perspective. By the way, I'm with you. I think if he's not 100%, you don't play him Sunday. But I think if he is 100%, you play him. But if there is any sort of concern about the knee and he's not exactly 100%, you don't have to play him in this game. You would have to play him in a late season, meaningful playoffs or go home game, or a playoff game itself, if he weren't 100%. If he were, say, a little bit hobbled, yeah, you play your best players in those games. I mean, there's a difference between being hurt and injured. But I think if there's any risk at all, they won't do it. I think it's totally different from last year. And of course, if Dan were the owner, first of all, they would have traded up and picked Caleb Williams. So we wouldn't even have Jaden on the team. And if Jaden were on the team, he would be pressing the head coach to play him regardless, as he did with RG3 a week after the LCL injury against the Cleveland Browns back in 2012. Let's go to Lou. Lou, what did you have 2 weeks ago for Washington's season, and have you changed your mind? Go ahead.
What's up, Kevin?
Hey, Lou, what's up?
I had him 13-4, but after the injuries and a couple other things, it just don't look like it. We're gonna go to 13-4, but I'm going to 10-7, man. I'm gonna have to drop 3 games down and have him 10-7. Hopefully, they can find a way to be a wild card team and make the dance, and anything could happen, but. The coaches need to coach and make adjustment. And Cliff and Dan Quinn, and they got to do better. You cannot leave this rookie tackle and they go sign a running back when you got a running back on the bench, Rodriguez. So it just I don't get what they trying to accomplish, but I feel like they need to wake up and go get a tight end that could block for them and help the rookie offensive tackle and protect Jaden much more instead of him running for his life. That's what it felt like right now. Like you remember back in the day when I used to call, Kevin. It's kind of like back in 2012. Like, what are we doing? Like, this is like I could coach the team. Like, you got to make adjustment. It's bottom line. You guys.
Well, I don't know what you're talking about. 2012. He had one of the great rookie seasons of all time with an offense that allowed him to actually play as a rookie. Yeah, I mean, we're not going to go back. The 30 for 30 eventually will hopefully give you everything about 2012. Although Tommy said this to me recently. He's like, he's afraid that when the 30 for 30, when they do the documentary on RG3 and the season in 2012, somehow it's going to get softened up as to, he'll end up looking more like the victim here. And that's possible. Who knows? I don't really care. This situation, they got bottled up by a fantastic defensive team on Thursday night. I mean, you knew it when you were watching it. If you go back and watch it again, and you watch this team was freakish up front. When you can get pressure, immediate pressure with 4, and drop 7 in coverage against a receiver group that can't get open, it's easy. It's really easy. And it's really kind of unfair that Micah Parsons ended up in Green Bay, because that defense was already talented, but with him on it, it's sick, because you got a game plan for him. But in most situations, you'd be game planning for Gary. You'd be game planning for Van Ness. I don't know, other than the 2 Philly games late in the year, and we'll see what they look like by the time we get there. I just don't know that we're going to have our team face a defense capable with personnel of doing what they did on Thursday night. I don't know that we'll face that. Maybe there are some good defensive teams, and 2 after this weekend in a row with the Falcons and the Chargers. Lance in Fredericksburg. Lance, what did you have 2 weeks ago in terms of your season prediction, and where are you today?
Hey, good morning. How you doing?
Good, Lance.
So me personally, I had us before the season, ceiling wise, if we reached our ceiling at 15 wins. Me personally, because I truly believe in his coaching staff, and I believed in the talent that we had. Now, as we speak, honestly, I'm not changing it. Me personally, I still, at worst, maybe have 12, 13 wins. But me personally, I think that we have a
well,
good
you just did change.
Young...
If you were at 15 and you're down to 12 or 13, that's 2 or 3 less.
Yeah. But it's still not that far off. And because me personally, I think that we haven't really tapped into really all the young talent that we truly have. Honestly, coming into this game, I thought that in the Green Bay game, we're going to feed Bill more. And I thought that was the game plan more, because me personally, out of everybody on the offensive side of the ball, I truly think Ja'Cory Krosky married Bill is absolutely special. I think he can truly be absolutely special, but we haven't given him the opportunity. And even when we did give him 10 carries, he won Rookie of the Week that week. You know what I'm saying? Like, he really is a truly gem that we got on our team.
I hope you're right. I hope you're right. And if you are right, then we'll look back and wonder why he only got 4 carries against the Packers in week 2 of 2025.
And I don't even think that game was really out of reach for us to not run the ball.
I agree with that.
And if we're being honest, when you look at that game and you say, oh, he had 4 carries to 17 yards, that's still 4 yards a pop.
Yeah, no, I know. The 4 carries looked pretty good with him in there. I'm with you, but there is a reason, right? There's a reason why they didn't feature him more or give him more of an opportunity on Thursday night. And my guess is that they see a good player and a player that's going to be a contributor, but not the, kind of gem or, rookie sensation that maybe you see. That's my guess, because if he does turn in to a rookie sensation, we will wonder why the hell he didn't get more carries against the Packers in week 2, unless it's just they were easing him in and he's not really there from a pass protection standpoint. And I don't know. I mean, there could be a lot of reasons, but Lance, good call. Appreciate that. Let's go to Frank, who's calling from Boise. Frank, go ahead. What'd you have preseason? What do you have now?
Hi, Kevin. Yeah, greetings from Boise, but I'm a lifelong Redskins Commanders fan, grew up in Washington. So I'm diehard. In fact, I'll never die on them. Anyway, Kevin, I had, like you, 11-6 with a playoff berth. And once the playoff comes, as we know from last year, anything can happen. So that's what I'm sticking to at this time. I would like to say, though, a caveat with that is we have to start turning the ball over or we will not have a good season. We need to turn the ball over.
Turning the other teams over, yes. 0 takeaways in the first 2 games. Yep.
Yeah, and we lost 5 against the Eagles in that championship game, and I don't know what we had that game, but that was also lopsided. So
Yeah.
the D really has to start getting turnovers. That's, as you know, that's a huge part of the game. That's probably one of the biggest statistics in who wins and loses in the long term in the NFL.
No doubt.
And then also, one other thing I'd like to say is I'm a big proponent, and I won't go much further than this, but I'm a big proponent in building through the draft. I think great teams are the teams that draft great consistently. And in having said that, I really think we need to start playing more of our young players, the Luke McCaffreys and these guys, Ben Sinnott.
If the injuries keep happening, Frank, there's going to be no choice. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, Kevin, these guys won't get better unless they get on the field.
Right.
They have to have experience.
If they're better than the guys in front of them, Frank, I would imagine the coaches would put them out there. Good call, and I really appreciate it, Frank. I got to get to a break. Those of you on hold, stay there. What'd you have 2 weeks ago in terms of Washington's your Washington season prediction, and what do you have now?
All right. Happy Wednesday, everybody. And let me start off by wishing the greatest goal scorer of all time in the NHL, Alex Ovechkin, a very happy and healthy 40th birthday. The Commanders are placing Jonathan Jones on injured reserve and have signed Preston Smith. After he worked out with the team yesterday, Smith was drafted by Washington in 2015, now makes his return to help pitch in following Dietrich Wise's season-ending quad injury he suffered versus the Packers. The Nats, they dropped both games in the doubleheader yesterday. Game 1, they fall 6-3 versus the Braves. Jake Irvin, tough night, 6 innings pitched, giving up 8 hits and 5 earned runs. Game 2, they lose 5-0 to the Braves. Locked at 0-0 for all 9 innings, took an extra inning to decide this one, and boy, was it decided, with the Braves driving in 5 runs in the 10th and closing out the victory against the Nats reliever, Mason Thompson. This update is sponsored by the Team 980 YouTube page. Just open the app, type in the Team 980, hit subscribe. Kevin Sheehan is live every day from 10 to 1. You can catch Denton's office throughout all football season. Don't forget to hit the like button whenever you do decide to join us, and turn on notifications to stay up to date on all things DC sports. And that is what's trending.
All right, what'd you have before the season? What do you have now? Let's get through some of these calls. Aveen, go ahead. So far, by the way, reasonable, hey, only 2 games responses. Aveen, what do you got?
Hey, Kevin. I was on the higher end to start the season. I was at 13 wins, and I'll tell you, nothing's really changed for me either. You might be right that Green Bay and maybe Philly are just in a league of their own on defense, and they'll make a lot of offenses look silly in the regular season. But it might also be true that, this was a Thursday night game. They just had a really physical divisional game against the Giants. They haven't gotten physically acclimated to the season yet. Maybe the coaches weren't properly prepared. This might just be like last year with the Philly game where they looked overmatched, and then the next month, they dropped 36 on them. So I'm not putting it past this team. If they meet Green Bay in the playoffs, it looks different. And even with the upcoming games, if we lose with Mariota to the Raiders on Sunday, my win calculation will probably go down a bit, but I'm not going to panic either because as long as we have a healthy Jaden Daniels, we can easily win some of these games. The Falcons, the Chargers are not easy, but we can win them with Jaden Daniels. And, the real measuring stick game and what we're going to feel about, we might feel really good or we might feel really bad, is this Chargers game coming up week 5 with, Chargers looking really good. Herbert's a leading MVP candidate. This is probably a week where they,
Aveen, the Falcons aren't going to be easy on the road.
Right. But,
and I got news for you. You play Mariota, Sunday's not a given.
Yeah,
Sunday's not a given anyway.
I'm not going to panic.
But you play Mariota, it's definitely not a given. That will be a near toss-up game if he ends up being the starter. Right. And let me just mention something because I just read something during the break. It's from Pete. Pete writes, "Did I hear you say that you'd play Jaden on Sunday? Are you nuts? Do you not want to protect the guy you love more than anybody else on this roster? Come on, people. If he's 100%, he plays, period. What are you talking about? I don't get that at all. If he's not hurt, he plays. If he is hurt, he doesn't play. Now, if he was a little bit hurt and it's later in the season and you need the game, he plays. But no, I don't want to risk him if there's risk. If there's no risk, you play him, of course. Chuck in South Carolina. Chuck, go ahead. What was your preseason? What's your prediction now?
Hey, good morning, Kevin. My preseason prediction, I had us going 12-5. I had us doing nothing less than going to the NFC Championship. And also, I wasn't even panicking because I felt like early on we was going to lose to Green Bay. I felt like we was going to get off to a slow start.
We were all expecting something different, though, against Green Bay. Even if you thought and you chalked it up, hey, it's a tough game in Lambeau Thursday night, you weren't expecting to be dominated that way. I certainly wasn't.
So I wasn't expecting to be dominated, but I just felt like early on they had a better roster, and I felt like it was going to take Cliff a minute, just like last year, to get his groove calling plays. But I felt like with the talent that we have and the fact that we do have JD, we always going to be in a game. And I feel the same way. I feel like with 2 quarterbacks that run the same system, even if we don't have JD, I have so much confidence because Mariota knows the system. You understand what I'm saying? So I don't think too many teams have that luxury of not dropping off as far as like the system that we run. So I'm not panicking, man. I feel like we still gonna make it to the championship game, and I feel like we're gonna be better than Philly this year. I just felt like it was gonna be better than Philly. Yeah,
I'm a bit surprised, honestly, by the calm after these 2 games. I'm impressed because I'm kind of with you. I mean, it's 2 games. It's early Thursday night, short turnaround, very tough opponent. I think my hunch is the NFC's even better than I thought it would be, with maybe some real legitimate heavyweights in Philly, Green Bay, and maybe even the Rams that are just better personnel-wise across the board. By the way, I'd also add well-coached, certainly Green Bay and the Rams. Anthony in D.C. Anthony, what do you got?
Kevin, for me, I haven't changed. I never gave a prediction. I was always indifferent based on how fortunate we were last year. and based on the teams that we're playing this year with the quarterbacks, and the defense being the big question. I'm hopeful, as I was last year, but we still can't stop anybody right now. And with the quarterbacks that we're facing, as I said, we were very fortunate last year in some of the games that we won. So right now, I'm still indifferent.
Okay. Indifferent before, indifferent now. Thanks, Anthony. Let's go to Paulie.
Yep.
Paulie, go ahead.
Big guy.
Hail to the
Hail to the W. Hail to the W, man. Listen, I had us at 12-5, and making a run through the playoffs. You know, I didn't say Super Bowl winner or none of that. I'm just saying 12-5, making a run through the playoffs, and I still feel that way. But like I was telling producer there, man, Matt, it's with an asterisk because there's some things that got to change. You know, and it basically, to me, has to deal with identity. What's going to be your identity on defense? You know, that's something that has to be solved. We need a pass rush. I know they signed Preston Smith today, and to me, you know, he would have been my first signing over Von Miller. I think Von Miller's washed. You know, but what's going to be your identity on defense? Are you going to be an attacking defense, aggressive defense, or, you know, a passive defense? And early on, I can't tell. You know, offense, man. They need the same thing. What's your bread and butter? Your bread and butter can't be Jaden putting his cape on. You know, so we need to come up with our bread and butter is going to be. They need to get this running game and this running back situation settled. Because I really thought it was going to be, and I know I texted to you, I really thought this was going to be Chris Rodriguez starting with Austin Eckler going back to his third down, change of pace role, and then the other guys, you know, chipping in also. So what's your identity on offense? And they need to find a speed receiver. They need another guy opposite of Terry. Because that was our limitation last year until De'Ami Brown started playing. So I think they need maybe, you know, one more thing.
Yep.
And coaching wise, man, you know, it's time. These coaches this game is important on Sunday, man.
Yeah. We
got to have a sense of urgency. And to me, that comes from coaching. I think, you know, this was a lackadaisical preseason and training camp for me, man. Because I keep hearing people saying, well, you know, they had 2 games in 4 days. They had the whole offseason to prepare for these 2 games. It's not like this came in the middle of the season, you know, where we was preparing for other teams in other weeks, and we had the Giants.
No,
and then
but they get to prepare for us the same way.
No, but what I'm saying is we looked ill-prepared. They looked very prepared. We had the whole offseason to prepare for 2 games in 4 days.
Yeah,
and we were unprepared.
Yeah, I mean, you don't know exactly until you see at least one game, which was 4 days earlier against Detroit. But I want to go back to something, and I got to get to a break here. But you know, I still have a big question mark in my mind about the defense. Although I do think up front they are better and deeper. Of course, that the loss of Wise hurts big time. But what you said about the identity can't be for a second straight year, Jaden putting his cape on. I do agree with that to a certain extent. He cannot be the leading rusher, you know, 2 out of 3 games. It can't have that 2 out of 3 games because by definition, it almost means and pretty much does mean he's taking too many hits. I got to go. We've got a guest up next. Tashan Reed recently joined the Post after covering the Raiders for The Athletic. We'll talk to him next. Joining me right now, he's new in town. Tashan Reed joined the Post about a week ago, somewhere around there, about a week ago, at Tashan Reed, TASHANREED on X, on Twitter. He's now one of the new beat reporters covering the team for the Washington Post. We had Tom Shad on the show yesterday. We've got Tashan on with us right now. Tashan, welcome to town. You also covered the Raiders for The Athletic for a few years, which is the other reason I wanted to reach out to you. But how's it going so far? And tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, it's been a crazy transition. I've actually only been on the beat for as of Monday. So I'm pretty about as fresh as you could get. Moved out here last week, coming over from Vegas pretty suddenly, so it's been kind of wild. I feel like I got traded or something. I don't know what Michael Parsons was talking about. A little bit more now, but it's been good, cool, man. I'm excited to jump into it and get started. Like I covered the Raiders since 2020, and so been a lot of stuff going on over there between all the different coaching changes and the off the field issues and ownership changes now with Tom Brady getting involved. So had a wild ride out there, but it was great for me. You know, a lot of quality experience and covered a lot of fun stories. And excited to kind of use what I learned there to come over and attack this Commanders beat. So from St. Louis, went to Mizzou. Yeah, man, ready to get to it.
Columbia is a good college town, isn't it?
Yeah, it's surprising to a lot of people how fun of a party town it is,
Yeah, I've heard that from a number of people that have gone there. All right, well, let's get to it. First of all, your early impressions of the team you're now covering.
Yeah, so I watched, even though I technically hadn't started yet, I was watching last week's Thursday night game against the Packers, and I feel like Green Bay showed them its levels in that one. I think they really asserted themselves early on in the season anyway. We have to see how the rest of the year plays out as like a true Super Bowl contender. And it's clear from that game that the Commanders have some questions that they need to figure out on both sides of the ball. And also, the injuries piled up on the Commanders. That was really kind of the biggest takeaway for me is, this is a team that is an older team. And so there's always going to be a greater risk of that. And they don't have as much depth as some other teams. And so those injuries could be a little bit more impactful. And so, last season, I think they really snuck up on a lot of teams. I don't think really anybody expected them to be as good as they were last year. But coming into this year, everybody's taking them seriously. They have the Commanders circled on their schedule. They're not going to take them lightly, and so they're going to get the best effort from pretty much every team they play. And so it's a new challenge that they have to navigate, right? And so it's kind of going to be interesting to see how they, try to meet that challenge and overcome some of these injuries and kind of greater focus from their opponents. And so. I don't overreact too much to one game. I know some people are kind of freaking out about it and saying, they're going to, regress really sharply. I wouldn't go that far, but it just showed that, it's going to be a little bit more difficult this season. They have a tougher schedule and it won't quite be as smooth sailing as last season in all likelihood.
Do you have a hunch on Jaden and whether or not he plays Sunday?
We'll see. I think today is going to be a big signal. The first day practicing in quite some time since that game, since it was on a Thursday. And so, if he's not today, in the next couple of days, it would make me lean towards believing that they're going to be cautious with it. I think, Marcus Mariota, the couple of times that he came in to relieve Jaden last season, he was solid. They won both of those games. And, if you're really worried about not so much Jaden having a significant injury now, because it's just a knee sprain, but if he's going to be at risk of making it worse, going against, a defensive line that has a player like Max Crosby on it, for example, and the offensive line has been struggling. Is it really worth risking his long-term health for when you can just sit him for a week and then get him back out there next week? Like, probably not. And so it's all going to come down to how good he feels. If he's by the end of the week, pretty much close to full strength and ready to go ahead, run him out there. But if he's still, a little gimpy and not feeling quite like himself, I think just for the long-term vision of this season, it doesn't make a whole bunch of sense to throw him out there.
All right, we're talking to Tashan Reed. He's recently joined the Post. He's covering our team now, but he has covered the Raiders since 2020, including, up until the beginning of this season started. So what were your expectations of Pete Carroll's first year in Vegas?
It was going to be sort of a transitional year because, they went 4-13 last season. They didn't make a ton of moves in the offseason. Yeah, they traded for Geno Smith, but they were one of those teams that kind of just played the middle in free agency, didn't make too many splash moves. They lost a few players, added some help in the draft, most notably Ashton Genty, but their roster has a ton of holes on both sides of the ball. They just don't have that depth and sort of that high level of talent that you need to compete at a high level, particularly in the AFC West. I mean, we saw that on Monday with the way that the Chargers handled them. And so to me, it was always about setting the foundation to build upon for the future with them. You're always going to aim as you can coming in your first year, but in their heart of hearts, like, do they really expect this team to like contend in year one? Like, probably not, right? And so I think it's more about getting them to a respectable level, instilling the culture, establishing their identity on both sides of the ball. And then, in the coming years, as soon as next year, you can really start going for it and being more aggressive in free agency and better in acquisition market. And so I think I picked them to go 7-10, somewhere around there, kind of fluctuated between that and 8 wins. So I think they'll be a competitive team. I don't think they're going to get blown out week to week or anything like that, but I don't see this being a playoff team by any means.
When you pick a running back at number 6 overall, as they did with Ashton Genty, that's the position where, you can play right away and you can make a major impact right away as a rookie. It's only 2 games and, there's no panic about anything. There shouldn't be after 2 games. But, man, he has really had a rough go of it. 30 carries in 2 games, 81 yards. Really has struggled in pass protection, has gotten knocked around. I made the comment yesterday to Sean after watching at least the first half. God, I knew he was small, but I thought he was thicker. He looked tiny out there. What have you made of Ashton Genty's first 2 games?
I didn't really put it on Ashton. I think the offensive line is really the issue. I mean, last season, they were like historically awful when it came to run blocking. And it's essentially the same unit. They didn't they reconfigured it. They have Jordan Meredith starting at center now instead of Jackson Powers Johnson, but it's still the same 5 guys. And so they were put a lot into the coaching staff's ability to scheme around the offensive line and to coach up some guys that struggled last season. But they didn't really do much to add help in free agency. They didn't really address the position with guys who could play right away in the draft. And so I expected the offensive line to be an issue again this year. And I mean, we even saw it, a couple of years ago with Josh Jacobs in his final year there. He didn't look like himself, and people were kind of questioning, that Packers deal. Now, basically, since then, we've seen it wasn't Josh Jacobs, it was the offensive line. And I think that's the case with Ashton Genty as well. And, if you're losing that battle up front in the trenches, like, I don't care who you have. When we saw with Saquon Barkley with the Giants, like, it looked like he wasn't like the player he was, and he got in the Eagles, and he almost set the season record. And so, I don't care how talented you guys are running back. Like, you need the offensive line to handle their job up front, and they just aren't doing that. And I don't think they should have expected this unit to be able to do that. And so that's the question that you have there at 6 is like, Ashton Genty, was he the best player available? Yeah, for sure. But would it have made more sense to add an offensive lineman there and then add a running back in the 2nd round, the 3rd round? Maybe, so it's one of those things where maybe they're okay with him not being the most efficient runner this season, and they think they can go beef up the offensive line through free agency or the draft next year, and then he can take off from there. And so maybe that's the vision. I think that's what they're hoping for. But as of right now, like, there's little reason to believe that he's going to have a very efficient rushing season given how poor their offensive line is.
If not for Jaden Daniels last year, Brock Bowers would have been the offensive rookie of the year, I think. I think he finished 2nd. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I can't remember because we were focused on our guy here. How good is he and how healthy is he right now heading into this game? Did we lose Tashan? Sorry, start over, Tashan. We lost you there briefly.
Okay, sorry. Out here in Ashburn, so the signal's a little shaky. But no, I think Brock Bowers is the best tight end in the league. I know it's early to say that, but I mean, he's just a mismatch for anybody. You line him up against the cornerback, safety, linebacker, it doesn't matter. Like, you can't guard him. Fully healthy. He did bang up that knee in week 1. And so he's not himself. And so we'll see if he's made some more progress this week and is close to the full strength. But he's a problem. I mean, so that he's going to be a challenge really for anybody in the league to cover. But he's special. I mean, whether he's lined up as a tight end in the slot, outside receiver, like, he's by far their number 1 option on offense.
Defensively, you've already mentioned his name once, but they've actually played really well in these first 2 games, albeit against New England in the opener. But they did they held the Chargers on a lot of rest for the Chargers heading into that game after an impressive opener in Brazil. They stopped the run for the most part, held them to 20 points. I'm assuming that you believe the Raiders defense is the team's strength and, at least somewhat legitimate.
I mean, they're okay. I think their defense, like obviously they have the blue chip talent and Max Crosby, but their secondary at corner specifically is pretty shaky. Their depth really isn't there. Defensive tackle, they have, it's kind of a weak position for them. And so I think it's really Mr. Graham's doing a hell of a job coaching that unit up and scheming around their weaknesses and getting creative and aggressive as he can to sort of work around some of the deficiencies that they have. But this isn't a very talented defense. And so a lot of it is effort and Graham scheming it up, but they can definitely be exploited. I think the Chargers probably left a few points out there on the field on Monday. And even in week one, the Patriots, they had some receivers open and Drake may just miss them or, kind of had some things go wrong. So this isn't like a shutdown defense for sure. I think they're okay. They're fine. But it's definitely a unit that could be taken advantage of for sure.
So what do you think happens Sunday? Let's assume Jaden doesn't play. Marcus Mariota a little bit from his year in Vegas.
Yeah, so for Mariota, it's a sort of a revenge game, sort of getting back at the Raiders for letting them go there. But I would lean towards saying the Commanders are still able to pull that one out. I think they're just still a more talented team on both sides of the ball. And Mariota, like I said, I think he was pretty solid last season in his couple of appearances. I think it'll be a lot closer than it would have been otherwise, and then they'll probably go down to the wire. But I think being at home, I think the Commanders will still be able to squeak that one out.
Welcome to town. Appreciate the time and enjoy today and the rest of your first week. Thanks for doing this, Tashan.
Appreciate y'all having me on.
Yep. Tashan Reed, everybody new to the Post, along with Tom Shad, now the two guys on the beat. Raiders in town Sunday, 1:00. Big game. It's actually a big early season game given what lies ahead for Washington. The Raiders have had a very difficult time in their first two games running the football. 19 for 68 yards against the Chargers in the Monday night game last week. And then in the opener against New England, 24 carries, 56 yards. So they are not running the football or haven't been able to run the football in the first two games. Maybe this looks more like defensively what the opener looked like against the Giants. Maybe they have to, especially if Jaden's not there, be defensive led on Sunday. Can they take advantage of this weakness, which is the Raiders' offensive line, stuff the run, and then get after Geno Smith, who in two games against the Patriots and the Chargers on Monday night has been sacked 7 times. Now, he played pretty well against New England despite being sacked 4 times. But on Monday night, 3 interceptions, 3 sacks, and a QBR of 19 in the game where they scored just 9 points. It feels to me, looking ahead, like this is a game where the defense has to step up and has to have a game like they did against the Giants. And look, maybe the Giants were more talented and more capable than they appeared against our team. And it was just the defense was legitimately really good because we saw what the Giants did against the Cowboys. This is going to be another kind of, giant offense potentially and an opportunity for the defense to lead the way. I'll tell you what, it would be nice given that Geno's got 4 picks in the first 2 games to get 1 or 2 and get your first takeaways of the season to make sure that game doesn't get into, a fourth quarter 17-13 type of game one way or the other. It feels that way to me right now that Sunday is an opportunity for Javon Kinlaw and Daron Payne and Dorrance Armstrong and Wagner and Luvu and the secondary to bounce back and have a good game. Well rested for sure, going up against a team that they've now had a lot of time to prepare for, and a team that should be a little bit, west to east, short week. We've seen this over and over again over the years, That tends to be a really good spot for the Eastern time zone team playing at home. Needs to be defensive led, can't turn the ball over and give the Raiders free points because they have struggled to score here in the first 2 weeks. This feels like a winnable game, Mariota or Jaden, but without Jaden, it's far from a gimme. Far from a gimme. And Geno Smith is a baller, man. He is a gamer. He is a risk taker, which is why he throws, picks. But he was, he was added by the Raiders in the offseason because Pete Carroll loved him in Seattle. We'll see. Remember, he's coming off a season last year in which he threw for over 4,000 yards. And the 2 years before was his true breakout season in Seattle in 2022 when he threw 30 touchdowns, 11 picks, and 4,300 yards. He is, capable, and Brock Bowers is a load. That's for sure. All right, when we come back, we'll do NFL buy and sell. You got to buy something that you are all in on, a team, a player, and you got to sell something you're out on. Max and I will have ours, 301-230-0980 if you want to add yours. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980, theteam980.com. We're free and live on the Odyssey app. When we talk NFL on this show, it is presented by Paramount Plus. Sylvester Stallone is back in the original hit series, Tulsa King. This season, Dwight faces the most dangerous adversaries yet, forcing him to fight for everything he's built and to protect his empire. Stream the new season of Tulsa King on Sunday, September 21st, exclusively on Paramount Plus. This from Cy. Cy writes, good call on Derrick Henry setting the all-time rushing record. What a jinx. He had 11 carries for 23 yards Sunday against the Browns. Yeah, that's a bit of a setback on the way to, 2,500 yards, 2,300 yards, for sure. You got to buy something. You got to sell something. All right. You're buying a team, a player, a trend, a division, whatever it is that you see, or you're seeing this NFL season so far through 2 weeks. And if there's something you don't like, get rid of that. So I'm going to buy a player here for the second straight week. I don't even know what the odds are. I should have looked at it during the break. I'm going to buy Matt Stafford as the MVP of the league this year. I know that Justin Herbert is a popular pick right now. Baker Mayfield, a popular pick. The favorites are still Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, I believe. Matt Stafford is off to an exceptional start. By the way, they played a very good defensive team. The Houston Texans are awesome defensively. That Will Anderson is an absolute stud superstar. But Matt Stafford, of course, this is risky because of his health and how many games he plays. But he's on pace for the third most yards in his career, on pace for the highest completion percentage of his career, on pace for the highest passer rating of his career. It's just 2 games. I get it. He's going to face a great defense Sunday in Philadelphia. But Stafford, if you've seen some of the throws he has made, and by the way, had a bunch dropped in the opener against Houston. Matt Stafford I think he is a Hall of Fame quarterback. I think the career, when it's all said and done, is Hall of Fame worthy. He's always been a great quarterback. He elevated Detroit in some of those seasons when they were just a horrendous organization. Went 11-5 in like 2011 or something like that. Had a couple of playoff games in Detroit, gets to the Rams, wins a Super Bowl in his first year. He's just an exceptional quarterback. He's so accurate, and he's so on time, and he sees the whole thing. Matt Stafford's off to a great start. So are the Rams. This isn't out there, kind of a bold. It should have been saved for Don't Be Surprised If on tomorrow's show. But I am buying Matt Stafford to have an outrageous season that may end in an MVP. Go ahead, Max. What's your buy?
Kevin, I kind of feel the same way about a different quarterback that I'm going to mention here. And it brings me great pain to mention this quarterback. It'll bring Brian great joy. But the Cowboys' offense has looked very, very good through these last 2 weeks. Now, they played the Giants and an Eagles secondary that kind of struggled through the first week, but they've looked a little bit better. But I kind of feel the same way about Dak Prescott, man. If he continues to win these games and just smashes the team total over every week, it could be an MVP year for Dak. So that's going to be something I'm buying. I'm buying Dak Prescott stock right now.
That's interesting. I watched a lot of that game, and until the fourth quarter, Dallas was kind of shut down to a certain degree. The Giant defense and the Giant pass rush was really good. And then it wasn't, as the two teams got into just an absurd shootout in the fourth quarter, where both quarterbacks, ended up with a lot of their yards in the fourth quarter. But Dak's come through, in clutch situations, and he did that on Sunday. God, man, the Cowboys, though, defensively,
it's tough.
He's going to have to put up 360 and 3 touchdowns every week, pretty much, to give them a chance. So here's what I'm selling, and this is pretty quick for me to do this, but I'm selling the fit between Arthur Smith and Aaron Rodgers. So that game Sunday that they lost to Seattle was once again a game in which their defense wasn't very good for the second straight week. The Steelers' defense wasn't very good. They gave up a lot of yards. They gave up points. They did get some turnovers in the game. And Jalen Ramsey is playing great so far for them this year. Another game in which, they struggled to run the football. They had a terrible special teams error by the rookie Caleb Johnson from Iowa, who let the ball bounce in the landing zone and then thought it was college and just ran to the sideline thinking it was a touchback. And it ended up being the significant play in the game, allowing the Seahawks to take a 10-point lead after they had just taken a 3-point lead. And then Pittsburgh was in catch-up mode. But I'll tell you what, man, in watching some of that game and even the opener, Aaron Rodgers was great in the opener against the Jets. He made a lot of plays, but they weren't easy plays. And I don't know, it doesn't look like the best of meshes. Now, Aaron Rodgers can be a pain in the you-know-what, but they're not running the football enough. They don't have people running wide open. You know, if you go back and you look at just the highlights of Rodgers against Seattle's defense, the throws that he does make are tightly contested throws. DK Metcalf made a couple of sick catches, including a touchdown catch. There's something about the fit there. What is it? Since Roethlisberger left, you watch the Pittsburgh Steelers, and you're like, they're going to be terrible on offense. They're not going to be able to run the football. They're not going to be able to throw it. Look, they put up 34 in week 1, and they looked really good doing it. But week 2 against Seattle, I don't know. It looks a little bit discombobulated. Big Tony would have to weigh in. I know the defense has been a big issue through the first 2 games. I know special teams with the return was a crushing play in the game on Sunday. But as much as I believe Aaron Rodgers can still sling it at a top half of the league level, it just doesn't seem like their offense is very rhythmic and smooth right now. It's only 2 games in, but I'm selling the fit between Arthur Smith and Aaron Rodgers. And, of course, most of you would say, yeah, the fit between Aaron Rodgers and almost anybody isn't a good fit anymore. You might be right. He can still throw it, though, man. He can still throw the football. Max, what are you selling?
You know, I've been racking my brain this entire time trying to figure out what I'm selling, and I've come down to 2 quarterbacks. Now, the Houston Texans, they've played the Rams, and last night they played the Bucs. Those are 2 very, very good teams in the NFC that I think that could be playoff contenders.
Right.
So I don't know if I'm going to sell on CJ Stroud, but I'm thinking about it. The one guy I'm certain I'm selling on, Bo Nix. He's got the best offensive line in football, and he just does not look like he knows where to go with the football.
Sean Payton was a little frustrated with him. There was a bit of a back and forth between the 2 of them on the sideline.
So yeah, I'm noticing Bo Nix. I'm kind of I got my eye on you, brother.
301-230-0980 if you want to weigh in. What are you buying NFL-wise? What are you selling NFL-wise? Houston, by the way, has the same issue they had last year. They don't have a very good offensive line, and Stroud is under duress in these first 2 games, albeit against very good defensive teams, as you pointed out. I mean, the Rams and Tampa, man, you know, every time I list a team that looks like they are a really good defensive team, they're all in the NFC, although Houston's very good defensively. I still like Stroud. I think Stroud can get it done. But that offensive line, they traded Tunsil, their best offensive lineman. That offensive line is still a problem. But, man, on defense, Anderson Jr., Danielle Hunter as edge pass rushers. Is there a better combo of edge pass rushers in the game? Maybe Gary and Parsons now, but Parsons lines up all over. So does Gary. I don't know that there is. There may not be. All right, 301-230-0980 if you want to weigh in. We'll take your calls next. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980 and the team980.com.
All right, happy Wednesday. Here's what's happening. Let me be the first to extend my very warm wishes and a very happy birthday to the greatest goal scorer of all time, Alex Ovechkin, who turns 40 today. The Washington Commanders, they placed Jonathan Jones on injured reserve, signed Preston Smith after he worked out with the team yesterday. Smith was drafted by Washington in 2015, now makes his return to help pitch in following Dietrich Wise's season-ending quad injury he suffered versus the Packers. The Nats, they dropped both games in their doubleheader. Game 1, they fall 6-3 versus the Braves. Jake Irvin with 6 innings pitched, giving up 8 hits and 5 earned runs. Game 2, locked 0-0 for all 9 innings, took an extra inning to decide this one, and boy, was it decided with the Braves driving in all 5 runs in the 10th and closing out the victory against Nats reliever Mason Thompson. They will re-rack against the Braves today, later this afternoon at 4:05, weather permitting. Nats on deck with Charlie and Dave at 3:35 on The Fan. This update is sponsored by the Team 980 YouTube page. Just open the app, type in the Team 980, hit subscribe. Kevin Sheehan is live every day from 10 to 1. You can catch Denton's office throughout all football season. Don't forget to hit the like button whenever you do decide to join us, and turn on notifications to stay up to date on all things DC sports. And that is what's trending.
From Christian, Christian writes, so you're already off your Aaron Rodgers and Steelers pick after 2 games. This is why you got to watch real games. That's why the summer doesn't matter. But not that everybody was picking Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers in the summer, so I guess that doesn't necessarily apply here. But yeah, I mean, I still think the Steelers have a chance, and it's really early, but they're definitely not in sync so far. It looked like it in that Jet game. Buffalo had an easy time with the Jet defense as well. It did not look that way against Seattle. That's not why they lost the game against Seattle. They couldn't get stops. The special teams made an error. Arthur Smith is a stubborn dude, and he's got a way about it. And now you got two stubborn guys, two highly competitive, stubborn guys working with each other. I'm curious to watch this play out. They play New England on Sunday. And I think Pittsburgh is an underdog in this game. Is that what I saw? No, they're a 1-point favorite on the road at New England. Kind of a big game for the Steelers, who then go to Dublin to face the Vikings in the first international game next weekend. Several of you are weighing in on NFL buy or sell. There are phone lines open if you want to weigh in, 301-230-0980. What are you buying NFL-wise? What are you selling? I bought Matt Stafford as a potential MVP. I think he's off to a great start. He looks great. His health is crucial. And, yes, I kind of sold the fit between Arthur Smith and Aaron Rodgers after 2 games. I could come back to it in a moment. There is some news, though, before I get to your phone calls, that I have to share with you. John Keim, first of all, said that today on quarterback day, in addition to Dan Quinn Day, we'll carry Quinn at 12:30. Marcus Mariota is going to be the quarterback that meets with the media today, not Jaden Daniels. Now, that doesn't mean that Marcus Mariota is going to start the game on Sunday. It probably means that Marcus Mariota is going to take starter reps today in practice. In fact, I think it almost guarantees that Marcus Mariota will take starter reps in practice. But Friday will be the determinant on the starting quarterback. But that is an early sign that Marcus Mariota has a decent chance of replacing Jaden Daniels on Sunday. And then we just saw Keim put this out. It's a letter from team president Mark Klaus to DC council members expressing concern over last-minute requests from the DC council. The second part of the vote was scheduled for today, and everybody assumed it would just be a formality considering it passed 9-3 in August. Klaus's letter, Dear Chairman Mendelson and members of the DC Council, it's dated today. The Washington Commanders write to express our deep concern regarding the last-minute new demands proposed by the council mere hours before the final vote on Robert F. Kennedy Campus Redevelopment Act of 2025. The Commanders have committed to a once-in-a-generation $2.7 billion investment in the district's future, bringing thousands of jobs and catalyzing economic growth and opportunity. Our vision creates approximately 5,000 to 6,000 housing units, including at least 30% affordable housing. As labor union leaders from Metropolitan Washington Council, AFL-CIO, Baltimore, D.C., yada, 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 wrote yesterday in the Washington Business Journal, the Commanders' new home at the historic RFK site will represent one of the biggest wins for union workers in the district's history. In fact, the Commanders have already put millions of dollars into the site to prepare it for development. He writes, for several months, our team worked in good faith with each council member to finalize this project. Just last month, an overwhelming majority of the council voted for this project, and we were proud to announce this deal with the mayor and the council. It reflected the widespread support from residents across the district who want to see more jobs, more opportunities, and celebrate their football team coming home. Now, less than 24 hours before the final vote, the Commanders organization was presented with a list of unworkable and impractical new last-minute demands by council members, which we simply cannot agree to as it jeopardizes the deal. Most demands were made verbally without supporting documentation. Given our deep engagement with the council over many months and our proven willingness to address any council member feedback, this is unexpected and unfortunate. Many of these proposals significantly impact our ability to deliver this project as envisioned and will restrict the value this project would deliver. These amendments could limit or even preclude construction, reduce RFK's ability to attract major events, limit the city's ability to deliver on its proposed housing, and hinder CBE participation in the project. I think that's the builder. Additionally, unions have stressed their discomfort with the proposed changes and are lobbying against any further amendments to the deal. Most do not want these amendments to impact our ability to deliver a world-class stadium with premier mixed-use development. In the interest of moving forward with one of the most impactful projects in Washington, D.C., we urge you to honor our core agreement from only 1 month ago and move forward with final approval. Look, this, it's typical, but I like the response, but it's not, I don't think it's unusual before a final vote in a situation like this to come back and just say, hey, we'd love you to also do this. And if they say no, and if they respond forcefully like this, then you just vote it and pass it. But why not ask? Well, why not ask would be, why ruin what was, a nice, day just over a month ago, celebrating the agreement on a lot of things that they worked hard, both sides did, to get to agreements. The DC Council, admittedly, both sides got an even better deal. The mayor struck a good one, and the DC Council upgraded it, which was their job. And now they're into that, be careful, because we know what happens with pigs, in the last minute of a deal. So I would imagine it's going to pass, but stay tuned. There appears to be more drama on a day that was supposed to be, we were told all along, a mere formality, but apparently, according to Mark Klaus, the team president, it is not necessarily a formality. We'll see. I would be shocked if they don't vote it and pass it today, but it's, local government. All right. Phone lines are open. Let's get to Ross. Ross, what are you buying? What are you selling NFL-wise?
Hey, Kevin, I appreciate it. What's good in the hood, man?
What's up, Ross? How are you?
Hey, I'm good. Well, shoot, no, not anymore. I was literally about to ask you about it because I texted Russell and I was saying if he knew anything about the stadium stuff. So I appreciate that information, but I'm hoping it passes, man, because I'm going to be at that first game in a few years, man, I promise. But anyways, I'm hot on, not hot and cold, whatever. I'm buying each division in the NFC having a heavyweight. You had mentioned the three earlier with LA, Philly, and Green Bay. Go ahead and throw Tampa Bay in the mix. I think our boy Max is right on Tampa Bay, man. They're showing me something with that defense led by Mr. Bowles. And I'm going to sell Mike McDaniels. Listen, 2023, any game under 65 degrees, over 65 degrees was a good team. But now, oh man, I don't even think he makes it to the bye week. So that's going to be my buy and sell.
Yeah, that's a good one on Mike McDaniel.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I got that. That's my buy and sell. I thought I had something else.
Thanks, Ross. Appreciate it. I'm looking to see when their bye week is because, they play Buffalo tomorrow night. So they got a mini bye. I mean, is it possible if they get blown out tomorrow night, he's done? It's possible. Big Tony wants to weigh in maybe on the Steelers talk that I just laid out. A little bit. Doesn't look great. I've watched your squad here the first 2 weeks. Look good in week one, kind of, not on defense. Give me what the word is on the Steelers and Rodgers and Smith.
What's happening, Shawty? Look
What's
here,
up,
man.
Shawty?
First off, you got to remember, they got a rack of new folks on defense, all right?
Yep.
They got Slay and Ramsey and Thornhill, and Wilson is starting, and Sawyer's starting. Sawyer's a rookie. Wilson's a second-year man. Harmon's not there. That's fine, okay? It wasn't Rodgers' fault the other day. He threw an absolute 50-yard bomb dime down the sideline to Freiermuth, who straight dropped it. They had about 4 or 5 more drops. Then they had Freiermuth wide open in the end zone, and here comes Calvin Austin. That's the one that got tipped in the end zone, and dude picked it off.
Right, that was not on Rodgers. Right.
Right. It would have been a touchdown, and, I mean, they dropped a bunch of stuff. And here's the dirty little secret that nobody wants to talk about. Kevin, in the past 10 games, they've been giving up 29 points a game.
and I think it's like 160 or 170 yards on the ground.
So what's
Don't
wrong?
even let them play Baltimore. They all out of position, and it's for real. It's the defensive coordinator. He can't call a game. And Arthur Smith is playing. He's calling the stuff. They just dropping the ball. And this is what I'm buying, Kevin. I think I heard it this morning. Since about 2021 or something, or 23, whenever Baker Mayfield got to Tampa,
Yeah,
he leads the league most passing yards, most touchdowns, and I think he's like second and third in completion or whatever. I remember when he was in Cleveland, he used to kill us. I mean, they wouldn't win the game, but he would put up all kinds of numbers. Watch Tampa, man. I'm gonna tell you, they're gonna do something. Y'all take it easy, baby.
all right, be good. I mean, they've got 2 last-minute wins to open up the season over Atlanta and Houston, 2 teams that might be okay. Yeah, Tampa, they were hurt last year, remember, on defense. They lost a lot on defense towards the end of the year. We beat them in the postseason. I'm just looking to see what they have here next. Tampa's got the Jets this weekend. Then they got a game with the Eagles. 2 weeks. So the Eagles play the Rams this week and Tampa next week. Yeah, you got some heavyweight matchups. I'm looking at the Eagles. So they get the Rams this week, Tampa on the road next week. Then they got the Broncos, Giants, Vikings, Giants, and then they're at Green Bay, Detroit in early November. They don't have to play us until the end of the year. They've also got a game at LA against the Chargers. That isn't until December. But man, these next 2 weeks in the NFC, because I think Green Bay and Philadelphia definitely look like major heavyweights in the NFL this year. And I think the Rams might not be that far behind, and maybe Tampa's right there. I mean, they could be 0-2. You know, the Falcons missed a field goal at the end to force overtime, and they needed an 80-something yard drive to beat the Texans in the last 2 minutes on Monday night. They could be 0-2, but they're not. And 2-0 with that, you know, some of the talent they have. Man, Bucky Irving looks good, doesn't it? God, he's a good back. You know, they're 2 number 7s at running back this year in the NFL, Bijan and Bucky Irving, that are exceptional. They had 169 yards rushing the other night against Houston's defense. Bucky Irving went for 71 on 17 carries, and Rachaad White 65 yards on 10 carries. Evans, Igbuka, they got a team. They have a squad, no doubt. There are teams in the NFC, let's be honest, that are just flat out better roster-wise. You know, we got a quarterback. There's no doubt about that. We got a quarterback. But the rosters that are better, Phillies, Green Bays, Tampa's, the Rams, probably the 49ers when healthy, Detroit's, that's 6 right there. 6 rosters that are just flat out better than Washington's. But the equalizer is we got a really good quarterback. All right. So I did want to play something for you guys. It's going back to a big conversation this week, which is the tush push and the outrage after watching what we watched on Sunday. This was Jordan Mailata on a weekly radio hit yesterday, talking about those that, like me, that whine about the brotherly shove.
TV the last 2 days about it. And it's not all favorable.
Yeah.
Your thoughts on how it seems like there's a growing pushback from the national media against the tush push.
Yeah. I understand it. I understand the outrage. What I don't understand is them using it as an excuse to why we won the game.
Right.
I think it's incredibly disrespectful to our defense and our special teams who balled out. You know, my brothers on defense and special teams who balled out that game, who had our backs when we weren't moving the ball or we weren't doing anything. You know, and so when I see those things and they fly across my timeline here and there, and I do my best to stay off social media, but you know, that kind of irks me a little bit. That pisses me off because we give so much to this game, and to you know, kind of base of a short yardage play that is a football play.
Yeah.
And say that we won the game off that, but not how our defense played, not how our special teams have played, putting us in those positions. I think it's
Jordan
I think
Mailata.
it's
By the way,
bullcrap.
if you didn't know, he's Australian. He certainly is familiar with rugby, which is what that play looks like. Nobody's saying that the Eagles won the game because of the tush push. Look, I bet you could go through a lot of the games where the tush push was significant to their win, and it wasn't hurtful to their win. There were 6 of them actually on Sunday. 4 of them resulted in a first down, but the other 2 were third down tush pushes to get into position for fourth downs. So they 3rd and 2, a yard, 4th and 1, they got it. Nobody's suggesting that the Eagles aren't great and don't have a great roster and are somehow, terrible for doing this. They're allowed to do this. Now, they're not allowed to cheat on the play by lining up off sides or false starting, which is what they do a majority of the time, and it doesn't get called. But that's not what people are whining about. The Eagles, winning the game because of the tush push. I don't hear any of that. I hear it's absolutely aesthetically unpleasing to watch. It's not football. It's not legislated. It's not enforced by the rules the right way. From my standpoint, it brings the game to a sometimes a 2-minute, certainly a 1:20 halt because of back-to-back plays. It's a predetermined outcome. No other play in football is predetermined. So there's no drama to it. And yeah, I mean, I've said this many times, but I actually think the Eagles lose a lot of yardage by running it. There's big play explosives available on 3rd and 2s and 4th and 1s, and they don't take advantage of those with the best talent in the NFL. I mean, how many 3rd and 1s or 3rd and 2s or 4th and 1s would they get stopped on anyway with the talent they have, the offensive line, the quarterback, the running back, the receivers, the tight end? Yeah, that misses the point. It sounded very nice from Jordan Mailata with his Australian accent, but that misses the point. Nobody's talking about the Eagles winning games because of it. Maybe they are, but Sunday it was, my God, 6 plays in the game. We got to watch this. Frank Schwab from Yahoo Sports next. Dan Quinn talks at 12:30. Also, Marcus Mariota is going to take the quarterback press conference today, not Jaden Daniels. That certainly means that Mariota is going to practice today. It doesn't mean definitively that he will start on Sunday. There are still 2 more practice days left in the week. Joining us right now from Yahoo Sports, Frank Schwab. Love having Frank on to talk NFL at Yahoo Schwab on X, on Twitter. I hate the summer conversations and preseason games. It's just so irrelevant most of the time. And then we're 2 weeks into the season and everybody's got, hardcore definitive opinions, and it's only 2 weeks into the season, but at least we've seen 2 real games. And last Thursday night, it was a beatdown. The score was not reflective of how good Green Bay was and how dominant they were. And I noticed in your power rankings, you moved Green Bay to the number 1 team in the league. It's only 2 weeks. How comfortable are you having them at number 1 now? And how sustainable do you think it is?
It's an interesting way to put it because not too comfortable because I still have a ton of respect for the Bills and the Eagles. But I don't think this Packers team's going anywhere either. And I just look at, and this, you can't just do this or else we would have all had the Saints at number 1 after 2 weeks last year. But you look at the first 2 weeks and there's no team that's looked better than the Green Bay Packers. You just look at who they beat. And not only who they beat, but how those teams have done not playing the Packers. Look, the Commanders looked fine in week 1, not great, but they put away the Giants pretty easily. The Giants should have beat the Cowboys, right? And then you look at the Lions. We're all freaking out about the Lions after week 1. Oh my goodness, they can't run the ball, they can't move the ball, they didn't score a touchdown, and then they throw up 52 on the Bears. The only takeaway to me is those Packers are that good. I mean, they look fantastic. Their defense looks like maybe the best in the league or top 3 at least. I mean, and when you absolutely positively shut down the number 1 scoring offense from last year and the number 5 scoring offense from last year, that's going to turn some heads. I don't take anything from that Commanders performance and downgrade them. I don't look at, the Commanders are in trouble. No, not at all. I just think, hey, you're going to go up against the Green Bay Packers this season, you're going to look bad. and the Commanders did. But I think that's going to be the case for most of the teams Green Bay plays.
Yeah, Frank, I was talking about this earlier in the show and mentioned it over the summer that I thought the NFC last year, we didn't know it going into the season, but it ended up being incredibly deep. I mean, 11-6 was the 7 seed, the Packers. 10-7 didn't make it with the Seahawks last year. But now through 2 weeks, and again, it's early, but it's like the heavyweights, other than Buffalo and Baltimore, Philly and Green Bay may be the 2 biggest and baddest teams in the league. I think the Rams are very close. I think Tampa is a team to watch. San Francisco, if they stay healthy, like the NFC is just loaded with potential heavyweight teams. Do you see it the same way through 2 weeks?
Yeah, you could see a shift. And, you started to see it last year. Look, the Lions went 15-2. Commanders took, obviously, a massive step up. The Rams were playing really well by the end of the season. The Eagles obviously blew out the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. So you could see that. But, yeah, it's going to be tough. There's going to be good teams in the NFC who don't make the playoffs just because you like Seattle last year. You finished 10 wins, and it's like, well, okay, well, everybody else has 11. It's just – there's a lot of good talent in the NFC now, and it's not all necessarily quarterback driven either. I think the quarterbacks are still in the AFC, although that takes a hit without Joe Burrow. But it's just the way these teams have been built. You look and the Packers are just a really deep team. The Rams rebuilt their defense on the fly. The Eagles have the deepest roster in the NFL. Yeah, stuff like that. You look and you say, yeah, the NFC. It looked before last season like the AFC was far, far superior. I don't think that's the case anymore. Like you said, the Ravens, Bills, they're great. Like they're very fantastic teams. The Chargers might be a really, really good team. I haven't had the Chiefs dropping off the planet either. They're going to be there by the end of the year. But you look at the NFC, and it is really, really deep and good.
Give me a couple of teams that you're really high on that you didn't expect to be high on through 2 weeks.
you can't not say the Colts, right? Like,
right.
But there was part of me that said, I think I picked the wrong team in the AFC South. I said the Jaguars, but there was part of me that said, look, the Colts were 8-9 last year with 31st best passer rating in the NFL. What if they get that to 20th with Daniel Jones? And it looks so far like it's going to be well beyond 20th. It's really impressive what they've been able to do. They just look like a complete team. I think Steichen is a good coach, and he's showing it. I mean, they're getting the most out of that team. So I guess I have to say the Colts, they got to lead that off. I was high on the Buccaneers coming into the season. They were actually my Super Bowl pick out of the NFC, so I feel pretty good about them going on the road and beating Atlanta and Houston while they're dealing with a lot of injuries. I think they're going to get healthier. So I think a team off radar right now that I think can make a big jump up is the Seahawks, actually. I'm really impressed with their defense so far. Their offense wasn't good in week 1, but it was good in week 2 against Pittsburgh, on the road to Pittsburgh in an early start game, which is typically a tough deal for West Coast teams. I'm just saying keep my eye on Seattle. Like the 49ers dealing with their injuries. Rams are very good. I'm not discounting them at all. I think Arizona's kind of a paper champion at 2-0. But the Seahawks, to me, are the team. If I had to say one team that, their record isn't that great because they lost week 1, but the team that I'm keeping my eye on is the Seattle Seahawks.
Where should fans be panicking after 2 weeks, if anywhere?
I think Houston for sure. I mean, man, I wrote about it this morning, just saying what everybody I've heard for 2 days now how the Bengals are letting down Joe Burrow, and organizationally, I think a lot of that is really moving the goalposts on the Bengals, because everybody all off season was like, you got to re-sign T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. And then it was, well, you got to rebuild the defense. And now all of a sudden we get the fall and everybody's like, how dare you not build up the offensive line? Well, it's a salary cap league. You can't do everything. But the real problem, Houston has a far worse offensive line than the Bengals. Houston has far worse receivers than the Bengals. And Houston has a worse running back room than the Bengals. What they're doing to C.J. Stroud is criminal. Like, they are letting him down completely. And C.J.'s not playing well, but I don't even put that at his feet. What can you do when your organization just does nothing to help you? So I think Houston's in real trouble. And then the Bears, everybody had high hopes for them, and they still might get there on offense, but their defense has given up 73 points in the last 5 quarters of football. And we saw what J.J. McCarthy did in week 2. To allow him to come back on you in the 4th quarter of week 1 wasn't good. It doesn't look good in retrospect. So I think those teams should be definitely in panic mode already. And I mean, there's other teams, but we knew the Dolphins were going to be bad. We knew, the Cowboys weren't going to be great, I guess. So, teams like that are already up against it. But yeah, I think Houston just jumps out to me as a team that, they just did a very, very poor job building that roster in the offseason.
I mean, that offensive line was bad last year, and then they traded Tunsil here. But I mentioned something earlier about that team because they could have won both games, against the Rams and the Bucs. Yeah. I'm not sure. Tell me who I'm forgetting here. That there is a better pair of edge rushers on the same team than Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter. That defense is nasty.
It's really, really good. I mean, Benito and Cooper in Denver, they're pretty good. Yeah. I mean, Pittsburgh has a couple guys, but I mean, even McGuire is taking a step up in Cleveland to go with Garrett. But you're right. Like, Houston's got the defense, and they have the franchise quarterback. It's just, other than Nico Collins on that offense, every other guy playing on that offense is below average, and I think far below average, to be honest with you. It's just, they have the 32nd best offensive line in football. I don't even think it's debatable. Their receivers, other than Nico Collins, and even Nico's struggling because I think defenses are just like, nobody else can beat us. None of their other receivers have more than 77 yards this season. Their running game has produced, I believe, 130 yards, other than C.J. Stroud's scrambles. Like, it is just a mess in Houston right now. But the defense, you're right, the defense is fantastic.
Talking to Frank Schwab from Yahoo, he does have Green Bay as the number 1 team in his latest power rankings. He's got Washington at 13, down from 11. So you said that there's no reason to be concerned. Green Bay's that good. I tend to agree with you. It's a short week game too. But what is your, current, like, where were you 2 weeks ago on Washington, and where are you now?
Yeah, and I hate this because last summer there were receipts. I was saying I think the Commanders can be a playoff team, and they made me look really smart, right? Like, they were fantastic. I tip my cap to them. So, but I felt bad, like the WWE heel turn, chair to the back to the Commanders this summer. I was saying this team's going to regress. Like the way the Commanders won, and it was an awesome season. It was so fun, and the fans deserved it. But the Hail Marys, the overtime wins, beating the Eagles with 7 seconds left, all these things were just not going to happen again. Not to mention, making it 87% of the time on fourth down or whatever it was. It was bound to come back to earth a little bit. So I didn't expect the Commanders to be this great team again. I didn't expect them to win 12 games again, other than, hey, Jaden Daniels might just be that good that he carries his franchise there. But I still am kind of there with them. I think they're not a playoff team, to be honest with you, unless Jaden is just incredible all season. And the injury makes it tougher. Like he's going to be playing with this all season. Like guys don't get healthier as the NFL season goes on. So yeah, I'm kind of in the middle with the Commanders. I think week to week, they're a tough out because they do have talented players and a great quarterback. But I just think as a whole, we talked, a couple minutes ago about how good the NFC is, and it's going to be tough for the Commanders to make the playoffs in the NFC. Just if nothing else, just because of the sheer volume of teams that are playoff quality.
Back to Indy for a moment. Daniel Jones. I mean, it's, we've done this with, Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield. It's like you can never, Geno Smith, you can never really count these guys out. I mean, quarterbacks, careers sometimes don't even start to mature until they're post 30 years old. But is he the reason for this? I think they've got a good roster, but tell me about Daniel Jones and Shane Steichen together. Is this going to be Daniel Jones from the Brian Dable year a few years back?
Yeah, and it's funny because Daniel Jones wasn't even that great that year, to be honest. Go back and look.
As a runner, he was.
Yeah. He wasn't that way, but as a passer, he's just never been that. So that I'll tell you this. I went into week 2 saying, all right, Daniel Jones did a week 1 against the Dolphins, who they can't stop a nosebleed at this point. Like, whatever. Like, I'm not that impressed. Let's see him do it against the Broncos. Well, then he did. He was 316 yards, I believe, passing against what I think is one of the top 5 defenses in the NFL. So I don't know. I guess you do that against the Broncos back-to-back weeks, playing really, really well. You got to say he's turned a corner. And the interesting part is going to be, what kind of contract does he get after the year if this continues? Is he going to get another massive deal? Like they can't, they can't let him. I don't remember. This is 1 year. They can't turn back to Anthony Richardson after this. Like that's going to be fascinating. But I don't think it's going to continue like this for Daniel Jones all season. But I think they made the right choice. Like I think you have to tip your cap to Shane Steichen and say, I was one of those saying like, hey, you got to see it through with Anthony Richardson. He has the upside, blah blah blah. And look what's happened. Like they're all saying, well, the upside is actually Daniel Jones. Like I didn't expect that coming, but it's another lesson that we treat quarterbacks like they have to develop in a microwave. They're given no time to develop. If you're not good by the middle of your second year, I mean, heck, people are already dumping on JJ McCarthy after 2 games. Like sometimes it just takes time in the NFL. And I'm not saying Daniel Jones is going to be this top 5 quarterback the rest of his career, but hey, Baker Mayfield, Geno, Darnold, we've seen it before. Maybe it's happening again.
Yeah, I heard somebody say, or maybe I read it earlier this morning, that if Caleb Williams' first 2 games were the 2 games from this year with his new coach, Ben Johnson, we'd actually be a lot more positive. But we have all this other information that brings the opinion down a little bit. All right, let's finish up with this. Where are you on the tush push?
I think it's so dumb that we've gone, like, there were maybe some false starts against the Chiefs. So instead of saying they should call the false starts, we just say they should get rid of the tush push. What? That's just so nonsensical. That doesn't make any sense.
That's
like,
me.
We're
me.
Talking about, I guess if you wanted it gone, like, that's fine. Like, you could stick with that. But I don't see why. Call false starts. That's the problem with, when you miss false start penalties, the problem is call the false start penalties.
Why aren't they calling it? Why isn't the play being legislated the correct way?
I just think, heck, go back to Bart Starr's quarterback sneak in the Ice Bowl 70 years ago or however long that was. There was a false start on that play. It is hard. It is very hard. And when we can slow things down frame by frame, we can say, oh, look, there was a false start penalty. In real time, it's not that easy to see. And the Chiefs of all teams have been kings of kind of their tackles moving before the snap. So I don't know if I want to hear too many complaints from them. But I've always said that the tush push, Aesthetically, the one argument against the tush push is aesthetically, it's not that pleasing. That's the same reason we got rid of the shift in baseball. It's the same reason we got rid of the neutral zone trap in hockey, where you just say, look, there's nothing wrong with what you've done, but you've done it so well, you've made the game unwatchable. And the tush push is not fun to watch. And it's just, so if you want to make an argument that way, that's fine. This stuff about, oh, guys could get injured. Well, they haven't. So what are we talking? Are we going to get rid of slant routes? I've seen guys get injured on slant routes. Like that's nonsensical to me. I just think the only argument for it is aesthetically, you've just perfected this so well that it's just making the game not really fun to watch. And there have been other rule changes in other sports and even even the NFL to just say the watchability of football, it matters in this point. And that's why we need to get rid of it, but not because of false start penalties. Call false start.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like, that isn't the reason that I want it. I want it to be legislated if they're going to keep it. But for me, it's the only play that has a foregone conclusion. There's no drama. Right. It's not aesthetically pleasing. Right. I comped it to, and it's not apples to apples, a pitcher holding a runner on first with 7 throws over there. They got rid of that too. It doesn't slow the game down literally, but it does sort of psychologically as you're watching it. And I just, to me, I think it is going to be gone. I can't imagine that they don't get the votes for it next off season. What do you think?
Maybe. Yeah. I mean, nobody would push for it, but I view it as sour grapes. I really do. It's like, we can't stop this place, so we need to vote against it.
So do Philadelphia fans.
Okay. It's like, what's going to happen next year? It's going to be like, okay, we can't stop off tackle runs by Derrick Henry, so let's vote against it. Like, at some point, like, I don't think that competitively is fair, but just to say we can't stop this, so we got to vote against it. But the one argument is, yes, it is really kind of dull to watch. Like, it is like,
yeah,
all right,
well, it's the only play that you have where there's no drama at all.
I remember the Super Bowl when they were tackled at the 1 yard line, when the replay said he was got down to 1 yard line. All 118 million people watching or whatever knew exactly what was going to happen on the next play. And that you're right. That's not fun football.
Frank, thanks. Really appreciate it. Love having you on the show. Hope you're well.
Absolutely. I appreciate it.
Frank Schwab, everybody, at Yahoo Schwab on X and on Twitter. Window Nation's offering their most popular offer of the year. Buy 2 windows, get 2 free with the option of paying nothing for 2 years. So no money down, no payments, and no interest charge until the year 2027. If you've been thinking about new windows because your windows are older, they're inefficient, you're paying too much for heating bills in the winter and air conditioning bills in the summer, now is the time to act. It's a perfect time of the year, September is, to get top quality, energy efficient windows from a trusted company, all at a reasonable price. Window Nation's got over 45,000 5-star reviews. They've got a 96% customer satisfaction rating. Their windows come with a lifetime warranty, and they were recently ranked highest on Forbes's list of best window installation companies. You can trust Window Nation for high quality, affordable windows with outstanding customer service. Call them today for a fast, free estimate at 866-90-NATION or head to windownation.com. The sale ends September 30th. Buy 2, get 2 free. Pay nothing until the year 2027. 866-90-NATION, windownation.com. Dan Quinn's going to address the media in about 10 minutes. We will carry that live. But there has been some news this morning related to the RFK site. This was supposed to be the formality second vote on the stadium. And apparently the team is not happy, and they have a, quote, deep concern regarding last-minute new demands made by the city council. Joining us right now is our friend from Channel 9, Eric Flack, at Eric Flack TV on X. So today was supposed to be a formality. Maybe it isn't. You can speak to that. But what are the last, 11th hour demands that the council, or requests that the council is asking the team for?
Yeah, there are potential amendments being offered to the deal that was already agreed to, one of which would penalize the team. Roughly, Mendelson, the chairman of DC Council, put the number at $10 to $14 million a year for not meeting the timeline to build the 6,000 units of affordable housing that is supposed to go along with the stadium on the RFK site. That housing, a key component of the stadium deal in a city that lacks housing and lacks affordable housing. DC Council actually talking about that right now, debating whether or not they want to push the Commanders on that issue. There are also environmental concerns. I just spoke with the chapter head of Sierra Club DC. They say there is about 24 heritage trees. If you've ever been down to the old RFK, right outside the stadium armory where the circus used to be, if you're a Washingtonian, there are all those big, huge trees that line that green area. There are also trees surrounding RFK and the river. They're known as heritage trees. Right now, according to Sierra Club, the team is being given a waiver to cut all those trees down, which typically you would get penalized in D.C. for doing so. Those fees have been waived, and Sierra Club wants to save those trees or make the team pay to cut those down to replant. Or there's been talk of potentially moving the trees, which is something that is possible, although they have seen pictures. I'm going to try and tweet out some pictures here soon about what the trees look like. But they're big trees, and moving them and replanting. Sierra Club also calling on the team to make this much more green, environmentally friendly stadium than it is. Right now, Sierra Club claims it is worse than lower standards or second only to Atlanta. And they want reusable cups. They want very low emissions. They also
this is the Sierra Club demands, which they're making those demands through Mendelson and the city council.
Yeah, I mean they have a sympathetic ear in some member of the DC Council. I think the idea of the penalty for not doing the housing was Mendelson talked about it yesterday. I was actually told by a source that it wasn't Mendelson's amendment, but there are potential amendments that have been kicked around dealing with these Sierra Club issues and making this stadium environmentally friendly, green, with the reusable cups and things of that nature, which they say it is not right now. So as you may or may not have heard, there's a letter that the team sent to the council as a whole.
Yeah.
This morning, they said it jeopardizes the deal. So we don't know if that's posturing or not, but they sent a pretty strongly worded letter
They did.
to the DC Council.
So what's your hunch? Are they really ticked off? Is the deal in jeopardy or not?
Yeah, I think they're ticked off. I know they're ticked off. I know they're ticked off. And the question is whether or not they're going to throw away the whole deal. I asked the Sierra Club guy, I was like, people are going to say, are we going to throw away a $3.7 billion stadium over reusable cups and trees? And his point is like, yeah, well, are we? I mean, like, I asked the Commanders, are the Commanders going to throw away this deal over reusable cups and trees? I feel like the housing thing with the $10
Yeah, that's a
billion
big penalty, right? 10 to what'd you say, 10 to 14 million a year?
That's the number that Mendelsohn put on it yesterday, and I think, and again, the debate is going on right now. I believe the Commanders have concerns that there are things outside of their control that could cause them to miss the timeline,
right?
And they don't want to be penalized.
Well, wouldn't part of that be whatever the city's, infrastructure responsibilities are?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, but it's ultimately, I think, the Commander's responsibility to work with the developers to get the housing done. I mean, yes, the city has to prepare the site, but I don't think preparing the site is the biggest challenge. I think, a lot of talk has been made about, who controls the purse strings for the developers to actually develop the site even outside the stadium. And I think a lot of that falls on the team. And so obviously there are some benchmarks, some timelines the team has promised, but there are no penalties for not making good on those promises. And that is an issue that has kind of been a stickler dating back to, the early parts of this discussion, is that how do we hold the team accountable if they don't do what they say they're going to do?
Got it. All right. Well,
they only need 7 votes, though. Keep that in mind.
Yeah, they only need 7 votes. What time was the vote supposed to take place today? Do you know?
Gosh, I mean, we are so far behind. It was they also have a lot of other big issues on the agenda. I think they're talking stadium amendment right now, but it's anybody's guess, Kevin.
All right. I can't imagine that they don't have 7 votes for this, right?
You wouldn't think.
Okay. Still not the best taste left in the mouth of one of the two partners and the biggest investor in this deal to go at him at the 11th hour that way. Eric, thanks.
For the Commanders to send a letter, though, they have.
What'd you say?
For the Commanders to send a letter, though.
Yeah.
Which they knew was going to eventually get out. They have to be
pretty upset.
Perturbed. Yes.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks. Appreciate it as always.
All
right. Dan Quinn is addressing the media. Do you want to break first, Max, or do you want to go to that?
Yeah,
now?
let's hit that break so we can get the press in full.
All right, we'll come back. We'll have Dan Quinn's beginning to end press conference today. I'm sure there will be a lot more on Jaden, as we mentioned before. Marcus Mariota is going to be the quarterback taking the quarterback press conference responsibilities, not Jaden today. Back after this. Dan Quinn getting ready to address the media. I want to tell you real quickly about Foley Mechanicals. So we were having some issues with our HVAC system. It was giving us some problems. We called Foley Mechanical, and Dan Foley himself came out and dealt with actually my wife, who handles some of this stuff. And he was so impressive. Dan owns 100% of the company. It's not a franchise. It's not some big private equity firm. That means he controls the quality from the equipment to the people he hires. And his team, they're professional, they're skilled, and they are sharp. Foley Mechanical is a full-service heating, air conditioning, hot water, and boilers company. And they're the go-to for older homes with radiator heat, a real specialty. They work across D.C., Maryland, and Virginia, and they proudly install Amana HVAC equipment. If your system needs help or you just want it done right, call Foley Mechanical and tell Dan that I sent you. All right, Dan Quinn getting started out in Ashburn. Let's get to it, Max.
All right, what's up, everybody? We'll get rocking. Hit on roster moves first to get the day started. So, John Jones to IR. He'll miss some time with his hamstring injury. Good news is he will return, but that's get him back. Another familiar face to some. Now, but we will get him back. Preston. Another familiar face to some that we signed. Preston Smith, who's here from 15 to 18. And we've been visiting about him for a while, so we're really pumped to have him here with us. And another brand new guy, but on the beat in here. So Tashan Reed, any questions with the Raiders, we're going to direct them right to you. So you'll take all those today. So welcome, man, and part of the crew. So all that said, let's get started today and bring it on.
And what is the plan for Jaden today and then the rest of the week?
Sure. So Jaden had good rehab session today. He also threw out on the field. He won't practice today. And then as we get into Friday, I'll give you an assessment of where we're at for, after we go through practice on Friday.
How much are you finding that you're having to hold him back from doing too much at this point?
Yeah, we're going through that process. Like, that's him as a competitor, but we also, recognize the importance of the person, the player, what he means to the franchise. So we're also going to be smart, not just fast in this assessment, but this is a player that's absolutely wanting to do everything all the time. So it was a good start to the week for us, throwing the movements at the position. So, we've talked a little bit about return to play, but there are position-specific skills that you do for each one. So he hit those today, which was a good start. And then, like I said, I'll give you the final update on Friday.
Do you need to see him back on the field with the rest of the team?
Yes.
Before you feel okay?
Yeah, I would. It's important, timing, reps, the movements, but it was a good first step to it, Nikki. But we'd have to get some reps for sure.
And then for the O-line, after watching the tape, what is your general assessment of where Connerly is at? And is there any consideration on using Wiley at either guard or tackle on the right side?
I think we want to stick to the, competition is the central theme in what we do. If I'm looking at two games, there's things that I also liked, in the opening game, we ran the ball well and effectively into that space. So, we got things to improve on for sure, not just at one spot, but at a number of them. And we plan on doing that.
Hi, Coach. How do you prepare for a guy like Max Crosby after playing against Micah Parsons last week? Does that help prepare your offensive line for come against a top-tier edge rusher?
Yeah, not so easy, guys. He is an absolute savage of a player. I love watching him, the energy, the effort, the skill of it. Somebody that, I just respect a lot. And so his game, the way he plays, the style. So overall, we'll have to all play better, than we did in our last performance. And that's what we certainly plan on doing. But he has garnered that kind of attention for sure.
With Marcus, you guys were slow in bringing him back, making sure he was back from the Achilles. From what you saw last year and what you've seen from him, the confidence level I know is high. What do you expect from him?
Yeah, if called upon, we would certainly expect Marcus to deliver in the fashion that he does. He has been like a real standard as a commander, player, teammate in elite ways. And so each player that we would feature, they'd be featured in not exactly the same way, although mobility for him and Jaden and, kind of coming up in similar styles, but not exactly the same also. So for all the guys, we have, ways that we'd feature them and how we would play if called upon, and that's what we'll do. But yeah, we have like the utmost confidence in him.
Dan, could you elaborate on the signing of Preston Smith and kind of the role that you envision for him here?
Yeah, we've actually discussed Preston for a while. Edge, he's strong, proven pass rush ability. We like his size too. And so with Dietrich being injured, if we had another chance to add another person to that group, it seemed like the fit. And so I've followed him for a long time. I feel like it's one of those players I've known but didn't have a chance to coach and always have wanted to. And so when he was able to come in for the workout and be here, it just felt like a good fit. He saw him hanging out with Kerrigan, for them playing some years together and having that person, okay, this is what we do here. This is how it's going. I'm hopeful that Ryan can help on that onboarding process, but this veteran guy who will get up to speed quick. You can tell he's a bright guy, but you can tell he really worked hard to get himself in shape to be ready for the op when it came, and he had a few of them.
Dan, obviously, Pete Carroll played a huge role in your development as a coach, going on to be a head coach with the Falcons and again here. How valuable have the lessons that you learned from him been as you navigate your career, and what's it going to be like to face off against him this week?
Yeah, we've gone against each other a number of times, over the last, 10 years or so. What did I learn? Man, a lot. And he helped me grow. He helped me develop. Like most, times when you get to help bring someone along, confidence, belief. So I'd been a defensive line coach for a long time, and I'd left for 2 years to go to Florida, brought me back as the DC. And so that's the type of confidence and belief for him. I think like his rock solid philosophy, that's such an important thing that you need as a head coach. Sometimes as a play caller, you're just this unit, just thing, but as the head coach, man, it's everything. And so two of the very best that I've been around in instilling a philosophy was Pete and Nick Saban. And they both, everybody knew how you get down and what's required and what it's about. And so that was such an important time for me. And also doing it in your own authentic way. I've certainly learned a lot from him, but I would, think it's more in my flavor of how I do it, but it was certainly a really important part for me.
Hi, Dan.
Hello.
As a defensive line expert, what would you say makes Max Crosby as effective as he is, and what's kind of adjustments do you need to make to account for him?
Yeah. I think the first two things that come to mind when I think of him, this is like elite effort. Like, okay, yeah, I've heard that a lot, but I'm saying it's at the upper range of it where he can his stamina to go hard over and over again. He's got great bend. By that, I mean, he can slip and slide in between a tight end, a tackle, and then the skill work of it. He loves pass rush like Vaughn. And so for those two, kind of doing the pass rush summit, there's a level of studying and preparation. Instincts, I would say, are a big part of that. But man, do I love the first step quickness and just the absolute dog of a competitor. Sometimes you don't win on the first move and you have to stay relentless. And that is absolutely, been part of his career.
Hey, Dan, I'm going to steal one of your phrases. Ball is life, right?
Yes.
You've done a great job, protecting the football, but in terms of takeaways, not so much so far. What have you seen from that, and how do you generate more?
Yeah, I thought, and I'm glad you asked that because it's such an important part of what we do. In the Giants game, I thought the defense took some shots. We had maybe a few chances at one. There was one that got called back on a penalty on a Quan interception. Thought another one, Revo might have forced one. We didn't get it, but there was some good. I thought JK had where we had our chances to go get it. So much in Green Bay to where we had our chances to go get it, but you do have to take them. Takeaways, not something they're just going to give to you. So we got to be mindful. So in one game, it didn't go our way in terms of getting them, but I thought the attitude and intention of taking them was there. In the second one, we didn't meet the mark. So it's really important part of it. I thought in the Giant game, almost one with Nick Bellore on special teams, by the covering, the hitting, and that's another phase that we, kind of think of the covering on punts and the covering of kicks as like a defensive phase to it, the returns as like an offensive phase of taking care of it. But it's really important, and we know it helps us win. You can't be, reckless to just take a shot at the ball and not, tackle and hit. But
you're listening to Dan Quinn live out in Ashburn. Jaden Daniels not practicing today, and Quinn said that if he doesn't practice this week, if he's not on the field, he won't play, but did look good just in throwing and rehab. We continue here with Dan Quinn.
we talk about it a lot. You know, it's going to come.
Pleased that we stayed in the fight because it didn't. I was pleased that we stayed in the fight because it didn't feel as close even at the fourth quarter to be in it. I wasn't surprised that we're tough, but you have to apply those lessons. You know, what didn't you like? How did we go about it? It didn't feel the same energy and just flying all over the tape and finishing and fast. And so those are the ones that you have to acknowledge and say, man, this wasn't to the standard that we all set for one another. Not saying we were soft or any of that. It's just there's a level that we want to get it to. And that's when we really hit our strides. It's going to happen. Like the injuries part of it, getting the loss is part of it, but you also learn to stand and fight. And that's a good skill to know. And we got a lot of guys that are down for that.
Hey, good afternoon, Coach.
Good afternoon, Dave.
When it comes to seeing the field the right way and communicating defense, offensively as a unit, how in practice can you kind of ramp up the competition there, the challenge there to get that better for game days?
Yeah, just what you said, the competition. So like at a practice today, we'll have some just good on good that we go. We don't do that in the short weeks, where it's slowed down. But the first week we did it. So we'll do some competitions on Wednesday, just not scripted, just like today we'll have a third down competition. Tomorrow we have a red zone one. And that helps a lot because it's unscripted, it's looks, you talk, you communicate. Sometimes it's trying out a new play. Sometimes it's, working through the kinks. So it is part of what we do, but out on the practice field, that's where you get better. And it's such an important part of what we do. So we're really pumped to get back out. Never a good idea to take a loss and take a whole bunch of days in between. So we're ready to get back in this game.
Signing Chase Edmonds, somebody who has a little bit of familiarity with Cliff Kingsbury. Is that a player that you foresee once he gets a little more comfortable here, having a regular role in the offense, or is he more injury in case of injury?
No, we definitely have a vision for it. How long that takes, we'll see. But getting into the system here, he came in and did a really good job in the workout. So we brought a few running backs in to take a look and see where it was. So we wanted to find out, swings, pass game, catching, movements, what that looked like. But it'll take a few weeks to see where we stand on that. But we're pumped with the backs. Chris is certainly ready, to get back into action for him. But we're pumped to have Chase here as well. And I'm still learning him. Cliff had a chance to work with him before, but it's good to have him here.
Dan, sorry if I missed this. With Noah Brown, you said earlier that it was probably a long shot for this week, but do you have a sense of his timeline and when he's going to be able to get going?
Yeah, he was kind of like in the Jaden spot where I'm saying I'm working him through to see where he is. He won't practice today, but I'm more encouraged than I was maybe when we spoke Monday that it's, hopefully turning sooner than later. And so that was kind of where we are with John, where are we at? And so we'll have a better assessment probably for Friday.
And obviously Noah was very helpful for you guys last year, but unfortunately for him, he's got an injury history throughout his career. How much did you guys factor that in terms of how you built out the rest of the room this offseason?
Yeah, he's an elite competitor, and you don't want any of these guys, to have anything that they go through with. Sometimes we know there's re-injuries after an injury. That's like no big state secret. But I love the competitor, love what he stands for. I think once we get him through this, we're going to get him to the other side of that. And for instance, the one last year was so rare, of an injury that you can't chalk that up to a soft tissue or those things. So I'm just excited to get him back out there and get going again. Like he's one of our most competitive guys and adds a lot to us.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Along those same lines, John Bates is also experiencing injury. Any update on him? And if he does have to be out, how do you all have to fill that void from his blocking ability?
Yeah. We all know how John's so rare in that way on the blocking side. So it wouldn't be in exactly the same way. Like, just, plug and play into that spot. I feel like we're pretty diverse in how we would have to go after it, but it would be, something that would be difficult in that spot. We'll see where we look like by Friday. Like I said, as I'm going through with John, I'm in that same spot of where are we? We're going to make good decisions for the guys, and they're working hard. Having the extra time is helpful, meaning like a longer, time in between the two games. But there's a couple that I'm still in the wait and see mode and position specific work. Then we'll get into, tomorrow. Today we're going to be indoors. Many, did things through the walkthrough and then see where we are tomorrow. So I'm still on a wait and see with a couple of guys. You're welcome.
Hey, Coach.
Hey,
In
Don.
looking at the Raiders, what comes to mind first in facing them? Geno Smith is under
Yeah.
the center. What do you see in that team?
Yeah, there's a lot to like. They have obviously talk about Geno, like he's got one of the strongest arms, like can absolutely rip the ball. I think they got really good tight end group. They've got speed and route runners at receiver. I think an excellent running back, especially in terms of breaking tackles. So when you put all those together, run game, tight ends, receivers, strong arm quarterback, you can see that's what I thought of first. And then on the D side, I like, the ends, the rushers that they have. Kuntz is back. They've got veteran, strong linebackers down that are inside, a safety that we know well, and Chin, who's just down in the box and tackling well. So when you look at them, you see, okay, featuring players, identity, style, attitude, and a lot to like, in terms of who they are. And certainly with the running back and the tight end, like these are some really talented guys, who are young guys just kind of on their way up. So we'll have our hands full.
Out in Ashburn, the big news came early, as it should have, when he said that, and we knew it before because Kyman reported it, that Mariota was going to take the press conference for the quarterback. That by default meant that Jaden wasn't going to practice today. But what he said was that Jaden's not practicing today, but he had a good rehab session. He threw the ball today, but I thought it was very telling that he said that while Friday will be the day that he'll know who the starting quarterback essentially is, he didn't say that verbatim, but implied that Friday's the next day where we'll have, more concrete information about the quarterback. He said that Jaden has to practice. They have to see him on the field practicing this week for him to play. That's not always a given with the starting quarterback. Starting quarterbacks have missed Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, but suited up and started on Sunday. But I think that the emphasis on that was telling. So we'll know tomorrow if he practiced. We'll know Friday if he practiced. And if he doesn't practice on any of those days, he's out. And we'll know that on Friday. And the fact that, this encouraging piece, which is he had a good rehab session, he threw out on the field, but he's not practicing, and we'll know more Friday. But he's got to practice for him to play Sunday. I don't know. To me, I kind of felt in listening to it, both in words and in tone, that there's a better chance he's not going to play on Sunday than he is. That's my interpretation of what I heard from Quinn. The idea that they have to see him on the field practicing, by the way, I'm not, I don't have a problem with that, but it's not always a guarantee. He could feel, good and the rehabs go well and he's throwing well and they just don't want to risk him out onto the field, but they feel confident that the injury's fully healed and he goes out and he suits up and he plays on Sunday. But the fact that they want to see him move around means they want to see him move around and make sure that whatever it is in terms of the degree of sprain is fully healed and that he can do all the things that he does as a quarterback, both inside the pocket and outside of the pocket. I don't know. I felt that way. Max, did you hear it a different way? I have a feeling there's probably many interpretations of this because he said he had a good rehab and he threw well today, even though he's not practicing. I sense that there's a lean right now from me that he will not practice Thursday and Friday, and Marcus Mariota will get the start on Sunday.
Yeah, I kind of have the same. Well, I don't know. I feel like they're doing a little bit of the thing that they were doing against the Chicago Bears, where they did have Mariota go out and do the presser and all that, and did because I remember sitting in the parking lot not knowing that who was going to start. Now we had a feeling it was going to be Jaden, but we weren't 100% sure. So I could see them doing the subterfuge, like getting the Raiders to try and have to prepare for multiple quarterbacks. But if it's my decision, Marcus Mariota starting. That would be my call. But I think they could be leaning towards Jaden, but we'll see.
Yeah, I can't possibly have a call because I don't have the information that they have. It'd be impossible, I think, really for any of us to have any other call unless you just feel like you want to be overly cautious. That's not my that's not the way I typically think. If a guy's healthy, he plays. If he's 100% healthy and the doctors say, actually, it really wasn't that big of a deal, he's completely fine, has full function of the knee, can do whatever he, typically does, he plays. I would say that if there isn't 100% health and they're a little bit concerned about going out that early, especially on a knee, and he could tweak it again, then sit him in week 3, 100%. But we don't know what the knee sprain is. There's still zero reporting on the degree of the knee sprain and how serious it was. We don't know that we're not dealing with something that's significant, and they're downplaying it for the sole purpose of making the Raiders prepare for 2 quarterbacks. But we don't know. We did hear that the MRI revealed no serious damage, and there was some reporting that nobody thinks it's that serious, but he could miss a game and maybe some time. We don't know the answer to that, and they've done a terrific job of keeping it under wraps. What we know is he had an MRI. It's day to day. We have no idea the degree of the knee sprain, but we do know that it was enough that he's not practicing today. And it's enough that they feel like they have to see him on the field practicing to feel comfortable playing him on Sunday. And maybe we will see him back at practice tomorrow and Friday, and he'll be ready to go. But it sounds like he's got at least 2 opportunities tomorrow and Friday to be on the field, taking a full practice and looking like Jaden Daniels for them to even consider playing him on Sunday. Preston Smith, he said he's been keeping an eye on Preston Smith for a while, and obviously with Dietrich Wise out, Preston Smith becomes the Dietrich Wise replacement. I will mention that Preston Smith was uncomfortable in a base 4-3 in Pittsburgh last year, in Green Bay last year when Hafley showed up as the defensive coordinator, and that's why they traded him to Pittsburgh, where he could play an outside linebacker role. Well, here he's going to play a 4-3 defensive end. Now, we've seen the way they align. They're in a lot of them are in 2-point stances, and almost are backers based on the stance, even though they're at the line of scrimmage. But Preston Smith back, they signed him, if you missed that, this morning. Other than that, I loved what he said about Max Crosby, because that's the thing that sticks out every single time I watch Max Crosby. I'm not sure there's a player in the league that plays with a higher motor on every play than Max Crosby does. All right, we are done for the day. Chris Russell's next.